Hello, welcome to the MiniMapCast. My name's Jeremy, and joining me is Kerry Palmer.
What's up?
What? What are
you almost got me with another hello cold open. Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean a hello cold open?
Like last time you just said hello. And you didn't say anything else, and you didn't quite do that here, but you left just enough of a gap to remind me of that, and then I had to hold in another laugh. That's so funny.
Never. The trick is to consistency is to make sure that you never do the same thing more than once.
Yeah, that's how you get consistency.
Welcome to the MiniMapCast, which is Minimap's premier video games podcast. Just to get the spiel out of the way, MiniMapCast Minimap is an Australian independent game site. Make sure you tell your friends and give after you give the show a listen. Make sure you leave a positive rating wherever you listen to your podcast. It makes a huge difference, and it only takes a few seconds. And Minimap also wants to say thank you to Shook for letting us use the Moog Model D Improv as the music for the MiniMapCast. You can listen to more of Shook's music at shook.bandcamp.com. We're going to get straight into it because...
It's been a big week, Jeremy. Exciting week.
It's been a big, exciting, exhausting week.
Personally, this week can go get fucked, but like, it's been a great week for video games and also a bad one.
And there's just been so much ongoing changes and aftermath from the Nintendo Switch 2 full reveal. Now that we've seen it, people have got their hands on it. Public are getting their hands on it over in the States, and then that's coming to Australia at some point soon-ish as well. So let's just get straight into it.
Let's fucking get into it, mate.
They had a Nintendo Direct earlier in the week, bright and early on Thursday morning.
The first minute of Thursday, 0000.
Is just a bit over an hour. Like it was longer than I thought it was going to go for, but I think that they also had the technical difficulties they had, I think, also slightly affected the runtime because they were doing a little
so funny. The whole stream was desynced by like 3 seconds. Yeah,
on every platform. It was very, very. I cannot imagine what was going on in the room where they were streaming that from. Where they're just like, "What is going on? What do we do? When can we cut it? We don't want to cut it. We're going to lose half of the video people. Like that. Like, how do we restart it live?" Anyway, we've now seen the console. We've now seen people using the console. We now understand a lot of the features of the console.
We know what games are coming out on the console.
We know what games are coming out. We know when it's coming out. We know the price. What's your initial feelings on the Nintendo Switch 2 at a very at a high level?
I think the presentation they showed was excellent. With dips and peaks and troughs and whatever, like they all do. But I think it was a great showing. The aftermath, as we've been calling it, has been just honestly fascinating on an interest level, but also quite tempering. The price has been a shock, both for the games and the console, and the way Nintendo is managing the public relations and the messaging around so many parts of this launch. After the presentation, basically everything they didn't say in the presentation, which was a lot, it turns out. It has been not confidence inspiring. I think it's been a little deflating in terms of hype and excitement. That said, I am excited for the console. I'm excited for how the new Nintendo games looked on it, which is, at the end of the day, the best part of owning a Nintendo console. Plus my Nintendo's balked, like the battery's discharging within 2 minutes. So
yeah,
I'm ready for an upgrade, baby.
The remote level like Switch one, hearing the activation phrase of you watching the Switch 2 Direct going, I now can finally rest.
Now.
Yeah, I can go. It's all right. I'm going.
Yeah.
You could leave me behind.
So yeah, I've been excited by all of the hands-on stuff, and we'll get into what people are talking about in terms of how the hardware feels and what the different pieces of the software are like. But overall, I'm excited. There is a very strong undercurrent though of unease and tension underlying all of this though. It is quite a strange week and release and reveal this week. It's a strange time.
Yeah, and they also like I think it shows that the like not to get too like in the weeds about the world, but you remember how in the glory days of E3 in the mid 2010s that there was a
best times.
There was a level of simplicity to how I guess the general perception of the industry was. Like there was a lot of conversations around consoles, publishers, developers, but there was a balance that was, I think, being managed industry wide. When we would see a console, it would have some information about it. It would be either the PlayStation, Xbox, like bumping heads, or it would be Nintendo doing their thing. But there was sort of a this is how the industry now works, and everyone is kind of just playing their role as expected. And there's ups and downs, and there was twists and turns, but there was never it was never mess as much. No one can even announce things on their own terms without little explosions going off left and right now.
Like setting off their own landmines that they're laying in front of their own feet. Yeah,
like since COVID, and then since the the rise of populist fascism around the world.
Yeah.
Things are
also the rebound in the economy since then as well, which is I would say still being quite volatilely affected.
Yeah. Since living became just a whole lot much of a more difficult expense, there's always questions about absolutely everything at this point. And not that there wasn't then, but it's every single thing is now being questioned at all times because
and the answers usually suck.
Yeah, the answers either suck or there's no answer, and that's just it. So yeah, I think that yes, that there has been some tempering. This is a definitely a launch that I think felt calculated by Nintendo to make everybody excited for all of the things that are exciting, and then talking about the things that are perhaps less exciting or actively not exciting. Has been the things that's the trail, or the tail on it, rather.
The tactical precision with which they omitted just exactly what they needed to not say, and gave us exactly enough that I was watching that presentation and I forgot key things. I didn't think about battery life for hours. It's amazing. And they didn't mention it in the thing because it's at the same or worse battery life expectancy than the original Switch. Now, it's got a much brighter, higher resolution, higher refresh rate display in there. So it makes sense. But it's also got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So that thing is sipping power. It is taking a lot of power, and it's discharging it fast.
Which I think is that has become, I think, the norm for handheld consoles. Like the days of I'm going to play my Nintendo DS for 7 or 8 hours. The days of I haven't turned on my Vita in a month and I hit the on button and it's still sitting at 60%.
Exactly.
The days of that are over. Because we want larger screens. Like that's, I think, the biggest thing. It's like the screens themselves are now just bigger. We don't do little consoles anymore. We haven't. The one that we have one little console that exists in the world, and it's the Playdate, which doesn't have a backlight because that's not what that console is. Everything now is big.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? Because the Switch, one, didn't have to compete with Steam Deck, Legion Go, ROG Ally, all of these things that have sprung up inspired by the Switch.
Or the DS or the 3DS, right? Like it was the hard line of Nintendo going, all right, our console and handheld divisions are now gone. We have a single games division, single hardware division. We make now this. So
it had to simultaneously be beefy and also portable. And they struck that balance perfectly. We all know the success of the first Switch. The Switch one is a resounding success by all metrics, I would say. Plus, they had the most hilarious moment of patching in Bluetooth. So,
it's a wonder what you can do with the internet nowadays.
Oh, it's amazing! Bluetooth, like they literally 3D printed. They shipped the thing with a 3D printer that was ready to print the Bluetooth circuit. No, they didn't do that.
I can't wait till they patch in a disk drive.
Yeah. But the fact that now that the Switch 2, everyone wants it to be stronger, more powerful, better in every way, which means bigger and brighter, but also powerful enough to go toe to toe with the Steam Deck and these other machines that have been nipping at the Switch's market share. It's a funny position for the Switch 2 to be in. Shall we go over the hardware, Jeremy? Shall we'll get stuck into the details?
Yeah. It's funny because it's still just a Switch. Like as a piece of hardware, it's definitely the second one.
It's the Switch 2.
And that's so boring. It's so boring.
Yeah, when we're talking about how they revolutionized the portable space 8 years ago with the launch of the first Switch, it's a tough act to follow. And they know it's a tough act to follow, which is why they didn't try to reinvent the wheel again.
Totally, exactly. Like it's not a thing where they didn't want to have to re-describe their console again, right? Like they struggled to do that, I think, with the Switch originally. I remember, you and I both worked at EB Games throughout the life of the Switch, and we how many times did you have to describe to parents what the Switch is?
Yeah, and why the light doesn't work the way you think it does, and why it's called the Switch, and the controllers come off, and no, you don't need to buy extra controllers, and do I have to buy a second controller for my other kid? Like, no, it's actually got two, but it's one. And now that they them having to do that with the Wii initially was a thing, but then having to do it with the Wii U, it didn't work for them then. And I think that they were looking at their life cycle of consoles is always the biggest thing since sliced bread, and remember that, and then the biggest thing since sliced bread, and remember that. They were, I think, terrified of having another Wii U. Another GameCube, honestly, to an extent. It's when they wanted another N64, they wanted another Wii, they wanted another Switch, and so they played it safe. Yeah, it's hard to blame them, honestly.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, especially because Switch is exciting. And when the Switch one came out, it was so exciting. But what was the thing that everyone was really buying it for? Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And then Mario Kart. And then Odyssey. And then Tears of the Kingdom. And fucking Kirby. And Smash. And Splatoon. It's
Metroid
the game.
Prime 4.
It's Nintendo.
Metroid Prime 4.
Oh. Boy, don't worry. It's coming out on the Switch 1.
It is.
So... yeah, it is a shame that it isn't more exciting. By the same token, I think that's okay. I think the proof is in the games, and I'm excited by the games that they showed. Not everyone is. It's not the most exciting lineup they've had, but I think it's interesting, and I'm totally on board for it.
And I think that was how I came out of it as well. I'm the console itself really isn't that exciting. But honestly, there are enough bangers there for me to be happy. As a launch period lineup, we'll say, if we're including Donkey Kong, because it's coming out a month after the game, the console.
I mean, I would. That's so close.
Yeah.
in all this discussion, people have been talking about other launch. Did you know that Smash Melee didn't come out at launch, but it came out 2 weeks after?
I didn't know that. I
On
never had
GameCube?
GameCube, so like I.
Yeah, I mean, I had it after launch. It's just so funny that it was like, you just gotta wait a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's so funny. Okay, let's quickly run through the hardware specs. So Nintendo Switch 2, despite recent leaks before the presentation, it does in fact have 1440p and 4K output in docked mode, which is excellent. So 4K 60. It has HDR. It has support for 120 frames per second at 1080p, including in the panel of the Switch tablet itself, which I think is amazing. The panel is 7.9 inch, 1080p. It is an LCD panel. It is not OLED, which is a shame. Everyone has sung the praises of the OLED panel that they released in 2021. And it sounds like
it was a reason for people to strongly consider the Steam Deck as well. Was that when they brought out the OLED version, it was like, all right, now it's a great machine. Like it's a Steam Deck is a good machine. OLED panel makes it a great machine.
Yeah, totally. It does sound like people have had hands on, and people have said for an LCD, it's actually quite impressive. So it sounds like they've got a proper version of HDR on that panel, like HDR10, I think it is. So even though it's not OLED, you're not getting as low a black level and as high a white level as you would with an OLED. It sounds like it is a relatively impressive handheld panel, which is great news.
With variable refresh rate as well.
Yeah, with VRR in the panel, in the tablet. That's amazing. And you'd imagine that then opens the door for VRR to work in a docked mode too, depending on if you plug it into the right monitor with G-Sync or whatever. So that's really awesome, honestly.
Steam Deck doesn't have VRR.
Yeah,
which
totally. And it means they can let the frame rate run uncapped, and it'll be much smoother. Like that's a great technology to put in there. And you don't need to explain it; it just is in there, and it'll just make it feel better, and that's fine.
Yeah, because especially because the 120 FPS that they are hitting on Metroid Prime 4, it makes that like a genuinely meaningful target to hit for other games.
Yeah, exactly. So with the new Joy-Con, they are fairly similar in terms of button layout. There is one extra button on the right Joy-Con. It is the C button, which stands for chat. Talk about that in a sec. They also have larger SL, SR buttons, which are the tiny buttons that are on the shoulder of the thing. But the big deal with the Joy-Cons is they have HD Rumble 2, and we don't know if they have Hall effect joysticks to address drift, which means I lost a pizza bet to Jeremy because I thought for sure they were going to bring that up. But the main thing here is how the Joy-Cons attach to the console. Of course, because the tablet is larger, the Joy-Cons are now larger, which is good. But they're the same thickness though, so I think they're still going to have issues with ergonomics. I think that was a large part of why I didn't like the original Joy-Cons, is their original thickness. And it's the exact same thickness of the new Switch and Joy-Cons, so that's a shame.
I'd like to point out that everybody called me crazy when I was saying that they were going to put HD Rumble 2 or like Ultra HD Rumble, I think is what I said they were going to call it.
They didn't say it. They didn't even announce it. It was just in one of the screenshots of the walkthrough paid for tech demo thing. It was so quietly introduced. What it is, they've slightly upgraded the Rumble. Okay, we'll see how it feels. But yeah, and the Joy-Cons now magnetically attached to the console rather than connecting via rails. Which everyone who's had hands on has said it's really sturdy, really impressive. We've heard about this system. This was probably the earliest leak we heard for the Switch 2. And it's come true, and it sounds really cool. I like magnets are just fun. you know?
Yeah, they are.
So it'll be cool to interface with them just when gaming, and you could be like, whoop, 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 whoop.
I wanna hear the sound of that, like that it makes when it goes against the Switch, because I haven't heard it yet. Like I want to know if it makes a like if because like when you put the Joy-Cons in the Switch 1, it makes the like sound, and I want to know if it'll like Have you ever put two iPhones together and done the like local swapping of contact information?
No, I haven't.
It is insane. Like it is such a ridiculous effect. I'll quickly find it and show you because it is such an
It's satisfying, is it?
over designed, overwhelming effect.
Right. Okay.
And I want something like that for when the magnets on the Switch 2 like connect. iPhone contact sharing feature.
So the other thing I totally forgot about in terms of new feature of the Joy-Cons is it's got a mouse. I completely forgot that's a new feature because like that was also well documented ahead of release.
Yeah.
But on the, if you've got the Joy-Con holding them normally on the flat where it connects to the console, on both sides they have mouse sensors, and so you can put them flat on that side and then use it. Metroid Prime's been shown off where you're using the left one like a normal controller, but you've got your mouse hand down on your leg or on a desk or something, and you can use it as a mouse controller, which I think is really cool. We'll see how much it gets used going forward. You know, they'll probably keep it for like Call of Duty, but then do they enable crossplay? Like, would it be like too much? Like, I don't know. It's going to be really fascinating to see how they roll it out in the future. But for right now, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. It's like from what I've heard of people who have been there and used it, it seems to be really quite decent in terms of its actual like usability. But I just don't know how often it's going to be used because you know those are only games that you can do when the screen is either docked or sitting on a table. Yes. So like
and also you then need some space to put your hand.
Yeah,
so you either need to be at a desk or like it needs to work properly on like a body part or a couch cushion.
People have said it works pretty decently just like on a leg, but it's obviously much better on a table. But like it's also like then it's like can I have one Joy-Con still attached to the console and the other one loose? Because you know you can't do that with the Switch One.
Yeah, it doesn't like doing that.
Yeah, it'll because it needs it to be both off or both on. I wonder if they've worked on it so you can still hold the controller.
That would be immensely uncomfortable holding the entire console in one hand. I think they would move away from that.
It's apparently heavier as well.
Makes sense. It's bigger. You got this iPhone thing?
Not a good one. Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this doesn't have background sound.
Whoa! Whoop! That's some Nintendo shit right there.
It is. It's so funny.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's because it waves across.
Yeah. That's like really good UI and UX. Yeah, that's great.
Because I've accidentally done it at work so many times just because I put my phone just next to one of my coworkers' phones.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps resharing our contacts over and over again.
That's so funny. Weird that it just does that before you've set it up to do that.
Oh, you can, yeah. It like I think they enabled it by default, which is really odd. But it's only when both phones are unlocked, I believe.
Okay. Right, so
you can't just like put your phone up to random people's in the street and just steal their like.
yeah. It's not like Street Pass.
It's like taking someone's wallet. You just like identity theft by just like, boink boink.
Like a taser, but it's just your iPhone. Okay, let's quickly run through the rest here. The internal storage has been upgraded to 256 gig, up from 32 on the launch model and 64 on the OLED Switch One. Which is good. Seems like the Nintendo games are well optimized for space based on what they've shown.
I think Elden Ring is sitting at 60 gig on the Switch too.
Well, I said the Nintendo games are optimized.
Oh, sorry.
For space.
Right. Yeah.
The third-party games, as per usual, are pretty large. I think Cyberpunk's like 64 gig or something. So that's like a quarter of the thing. But at least it doesn't sound like there are going to be many games that just exceed the console's internal storage immediately, which was a problem with the original Switch. Also, they've changed it does still have upgradable storage, non-proprietary. It is micro SD express cards, which is a new standard of micro SD card, which is high speed micro SD storage. So it's good that it's not proprietary. Shame it's this new thing because that'll be a bit more expensive, a bit harder to find, but that'll be within 12 to 24 months. That'll be totally fine. I think totally a non-issue to upgrade your storage for the Switch 2.
Hope so.
And then Game Chat was their big new like system feature that they revealed. Essentially, it's a lightweight Discord-like feature set where you can start a voice chat with your friends with the C button on the right Joy-Con. You can include a video feed of sharing your game. There's also a secondary camera accessory that you could purchase. I don't know why you would. That plugs into the USB-C plug on the top of the Switch 2, which then lets you potentially share your video feed with friends. And there are some new Switch 2 games that utilize the video, like an iToy from the PS2.
And it's also got like we were watching it and commenting on it while it was being shown, but the screen sharing from Switch to Switch is so poor looking.
Yeah.
Like it's like 10 frames per second. It's not
like
very
480p.
high resolution.
Yeah.
It's not good. Like it's one of those features that like we were saying, like it's good that they didn't lie about what it looks like, but also
it's not impressive.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you really have nothing else, if you really don't have Discord, then great. That said, like I don't know any other console that could do it like this, so that, you know, cool. Like I doubt the PS5 could do much better, honestly. Run 4 simultaneous game streams and keep the performance up on their own game.
I reckon it could. I don't,
yeah, maybe.
I mean, like I don't.
It doesn't, but
like Discord can.
Yeah, but Discord just runs on a PC, you know? Like they could just make their thing run however it wants, and if your computer doesn't run it, it's not their fault.
Yeah, but like Discord doesn't have trouble doing it. Discord can do it through Chrome. Like it's not a great utilization on the Switch 2.
Sure.
Implementation rather. Also it's only for Nintendo Online members. It's not
although
free.
It will be free for the first year.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. As a whatever. So yeah, hilarious that they've created a camera. Like never in my life would I have put Nintendo makes a camera accessory on my bingo card. That is weird. It's so strange. And then probably one of the last things for hardware, most notable accessory they announced alongside this is a new Pro controller. It looks exceptionally similar to the first one. However, it does have a few additions. It's got a C button. It's got a headphone jack. And it's got back paddles.
Yeah.
The GR and GL buttons, which I kind of like. It's kind of like grip buttons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely excellent. That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still cheaper than buying 2 brand new Joy-Cons for a second pair of controllers. So that, to me, that is a standardized controller with back paddles. That's awesome to see.
I hope everybody starts to just do back buttons across the board.
Yeah, I think we're definitely trending there, and this is going to help it.
And weird that the Joy-Cons don't have them, but maybe they'll make Pro Joy-Cons at some point.
Yeah, maybe they will. Yeah, maybe with like some grippier like handles to hold onto, like all of the third-party accessories do.
Yeah.
And then they came out with a bevy of other things like case and screen protector. The dock looks fine. It's got a fan in it, so it'll cool the thing better. It's got what's the thing with the dock I'm thinking of? You can't use the old Switch AC adapter with the new Switch because it takes more power. So that's a slight difference. But really, that's all the hardware. So yeah, not too different, but still an upgrade. Oh, the kickstand's way better.
Yeah.
So yeah, as someone who has a launch Switch from 2017, I'm excited for this thing.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to just using it, but like not in a like I'm looking forward to it being a new one. I'm just looking forward to honestly just not having to worry about my Switch one also, because while mine isn't launched, mine's still a year one Switch, and it's the controllers especially have seen better days. I've had to repair them multiple times. I'm looking forward to having new hardware.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So that brings us neatly to games. How do you want to do this? Do you want to run over like the top level and then we'll break them down a bit more with whichever ones are interesting to us as we go through it, or
Yeah. Let's just go through them and stop where we stop.
Yeah. Okay. So first up, they showed very first thing before even hardware. They showed off Mario Kart World, which for something that we saw like 20 seconds of in a pretty unimpressive way 2 months ago, turned out to be such an incredibly much more realized, impressive, exciting venture. Mario Kart World. It was funny. We were watching it on Discord and chatting about it, and in the lead up to the thing, I was like, "Oh, Jeremy, maybe it's like you reckon it's like Burnout Paradise?" And you're like, "Are you high?" I'm like, "No, like." But that would be silly, wouldn't it? Anyway, so this is like Mario Kart meets Burnout Paradise.
Yeah, it is.
/ Forza Horizon.
Yeah, it literally is
funny.
That. Looks fucking sick.
It looks amazing. I think the art style looks great. Everyone's kind of made a bit smaller and cuter. It looks really performant, really like it's running really well. There are so many animations. There are so many characters, like one-off enemies from the series that you get to drive as, and there are so many different karts. All of the characters have like 5 or 6 or I don't even know how many, at least that many outfits that you can all drive as. The items look like fun. It looks fast. It looks frantic. The UI looks great. The music sounds good. So they've hit their own bar of presentation. In terms of gameplay, all of the tracks look to be very similar to the point-to-point tracks like Warrior Mountain and Big Blue were in Mario Kart 8. But the way that then works is all of those tracks are placed in one big world map. And you can drive between the maps. You can just you can just tell to do Grand Prix, and then you'll do the courses in a set of 4 like normal. There is also a mode where you I think you drive between the tracks once you finish a race too, in some modes. Like you drive to the next course, and how you get there determines where you start that next lap. But they've also got like a knockout mode where it's like 6 or 7 courses all in a row. It takes like 15 or 20 minutes to drive the whole thing. And at the end of each course is like a checkpoint. And if you're not in the top like 70% of the pack, then you get knocked out and you're out of that round, which is a cool feature. So like as it goes further and further, the pack gets thinner and thinner until you get to the last course, and there's like 2 people left. Yeah, there's some really exciting stuff here. How did it strike you, Jeremy?
It's just so it's such an exciting take on Mario Kart, because like I remember thinking about how good Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is, and you know, we were talking about, you know, why would they make another one? What's the appeal of another one? There's so much good shit in 8, especially when they added all of the like that second, the equivalent of a whole new Mario Kart game in Mario Kart 8, with all the new tracks, and it felt like such a fully complete game in the same way that Smash Ultimate does, where it's like if you were gonna get one, this is the one. It's got everything you would want, basically. And so then when they're like, you know, when we saw it the other day, a few months ago, this new one, it's just like, what are they doing that makes it exciting and new? And it turns out it's like, it's structured completely differently. It's exactly what I would want from a new one. It's really cool. I love the concept of the world being like full. I'm excited to see how they place the world and how the tracks connect, because like, is it like Forza Horizon 3, the Australian one, where there's just sort of a tunnel at the end of all of them so they can load whichever part of the map that they need? Or does some tracks not actually connect when they're so far on the other side of the world? But like, surely you can make your own cups like usual.
Yeah.
How do they handle that? It's a new problem they haven't had to solve. and it also in a way that is, I think, really cool. It reminds me a little bit of Mario Wonder in the sense that it's like the Mario Wonder world was one big world that you were going around the entirety of to finish the game, and all of the levels were just next to it and next to it and next to it, and sure, they were sort of put together relatively arbitrarily in the sense of like it's not like anything led into one another. But it's following a similar vibe, I think, to that, which anything that can remind me of Mario Wonder, I think, is a good thing. So yeah, I'm really.
It also evokes Super Mario World in its own way too, not just with the name, but yeah, like that because that had a similar world map situation going on there too, and I think it does a great job harking back to what made the 2D platformers so exciting in the franchise in the structure of this other format.
And of course, all the new characters as well. Rather new races to Mario Kart. Like they've added a lot of the enemy types from the various Mario games as now playable characters, like a Goomba and a Petey Piranha and all that stuff. Like they're all there as I don't even know how they drive because they don't even have hands, but it doesn't fucking matter.
You can play as one of the dolphins from Dolphin Shoals. Like, sign me up.
You can play as the Mario Sunshine locals. I don't remember what they're called.
Piantas.
Yeah. They're in it as well. I didn't see any Mario Odyssey representation there, which I'm curious about. I wonder if there'll be a give me a New Donk city
a
local.
random citizen.
Yeah, the human.
Yeah, I mean Pauline's there, but she's got a bigger history than that.
Yeah. So it's cool. And you know, all the new stuff like, you know, grinding on rails and wall jumping and the little transformations you can do in game, and you know, it looks great. It looks really fun.
Yeah. And watching some of the footage they've released after the presentation, they've been doing Treehouse playthroughs all week since the showcase, basically. And watching the Mario Kart World gameplay, like on the 4K stream on my project, it looks great. I think a lot of the games, honestly, are really meeting a great visual standard.
Yeah.
Especially for a console that can then be picked up and held in your hands. I think they're doing a great job.
And the finally on Mario Kart specifically, the music shift away from the jazz of 8 to this you know, harmonica guitar, like Americana style music.
It's kind of like
it's quite fun,
straight ahead rock, which is really good.
Yeah. I'm keen for it. I'm glad that it's not trying to feel like the same thing as 8.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I was listening to it in the sort of like longer breakdown. We didn't mention, by the way, also you can just free roam the world and do that with friends in the same instance, which is cool. That's exciting. But I was thinking about the music in that segment, and it is just kind of like, instead of it being a fully featured large big band for every song, it is more like they've got like a foundation of just like a rock performance happening each time, and they've got like different soloist instruments over the top as a feature. Like I heard like a trombone at one point, so it's kind of got like the essence of that larger instrumentation with like the different instruments they'll bring in to accentuate the different tracks, but it's got this underpinning of just rock and groove, which is awesome. I think it's really good. Jumping to the end of the presentation, I think it was the final game they showed, was Donkey Kong Bananza, which sounds very funny in my accent, to play on Bonanza, but it's about bananas. It's a new Donkey Kong game, a new 3D Donkey Kong game. No one's confirmed who's making it, but it looks very much like the team that made Odyssey is making this game.
And considering how many rumors we had over the years that the Odyssey team are making a 3D Donkey Kong, like it tracks. Like we will
totally, like
in this part of Nintendo's life, they don't tell you who makes games anymore, even if it's not them.
So opaque, which I think is quite like morally bankrupt. I think that's
really
awful,
bad. It's really fucking bad.
That being said, I think the game looks really exciting. They've redesigned Donkey Kong in a fun way. He's very cartoony. He's very smiley. He looks very soft and fluffy, which is kind of strange. He's exceptionally expressive, but you know, he's like grinning with like banana eyes when he sees a banana. But he's also like he's got this big, chunky grimace whenever he punches stuff. The whole thing in this is destructibility. You dig through the world and find gold and bananas and. Yeah, like maybe the whole world, like you could destroy the entire levels if you want. It's really impressive, honestly. I'm not convinced on what the gameplay is going to be, but I'm sure as hell willing to give it a go. There was something else about this. Oh, so he's wearing pants.
Yeah, he's got suspenders.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought this looked really interesting. Again, I'm not 100% sold on it, but I'm sold on trying it.
Yeah, this was my game of the show only because I just love Odyssey so much, and I think this just looks really fun. Like, I love 3D platformers so much, and so like seeing this be so like ridiculous, over the top, exciting in a sort of a like wonderful sort of way, is really cool. Like so not often do you get a game that you look at being like, wow, like what even is that? Like, what is that thing that's happening in front of in front of the screen? Like, I genuinely don't know. And so like your mind races a little bit when that happens. And I was getting that with this, which like I get when I remember getting when we saw the first time we saw Mario Odyssey being played, but it wasn't announced in the initial reveal. There was just like someone playing a new 3D Mario on the screen and everyone's like, what the fuck is that? I remember getting that exact same feeling then as well. So yeah, like I think this looks really, really great. They have the redesign. I was talking about this last night, Gary, but the redesign is very they've removed Donkey Kong's edge, which he's always had a little bit of an edge because he's a little bit of an anti-hero or a little bit of a
he's born as a bad guy.
And so he's now a lot more brand friendly. You know, they've somewhat DreamWorksified him a little bit, so that he's not a thing that makes a parent go like, oh, do you want that one? And that has since immediately been reflected in all of their merch designs, instantly changing just the brow on every shirt that they are selling. They've just quietly changed the designs.
Seriously?
Yeah, like that quickly.
That's way more than I was expecting them to ever do. That is intense.
Yeah, it's why at the same time that design is also in Mario Kart, the new one.
Yes.
So they are. This is the new.
They're rebranding him.
This is the media trained Donkey Kong, with the corporate makeover. It's the difference between E3 2002 and E3 2012 is the corporate makeover. So yeah, I keep going back and forth on the design because I think that I don't care that much about
like what it represents is challenging.
Yeah, and I think it's there's nothing wrong with characters that have got a little bit of edge, you know. Like I think he's a gorilla that is destructive, and so I think having a little bit of attitude is not a bad thing. I enjoy his expressions, but I think that you can do expressions with also having a bit of that like cheek, that snark, a little bit. But that is clearly not Nintendo's thing. But yeah, I think that the game looks great. Like visually, I think it looks really cool. All the levels look really fun, and really unique. And there is some Donkey Kong vibes in there. Like I've not played many of the games, but just through osmosis of seeing, speedruns of Donkey Kong games and like stuff around like King K. Rool and the Kong family, all that stuff. Like there's stuff there. I think and the song in it, which is quite important to Donkey Kong lineage, is the themes. I think that the song is quite cool in it. I don't know I hope that they give Mr. Grant Kirkhope some credit in this one, in terms of someone
Like
who
the
was
legacy
important
or-
to the franchise. But they didn't even credit him when they used his song in the fucking Mario movie. So, you know, like, not good. Not good, Nintendo.
Yikes.
Do better.
Yikes. Yeah, my favorite part of that trailer that rattles around in my brain rent free and will do until I play the game and long after, I think, is when they say, "Ooh, banana."
Yeah. It's
Just
really funny.
I think it happens in the game whenever you pick up one of those gigantic bananas. I think it actually just says it in game, and it's so good. Jeremy,
Kerry?
by the way, I should preface this. I'm reading a recap from the IGN article, Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, everything announced, written by Adam Bankhurst. Thank you for putting that together, Adam. It's a good one. The next thing on the list here, we finally found out what Sakurai's working on, Jeremy.
Yeah, a new Kirby.
Kirby Air Riders.
Riders, not racers. Riders, that's it.
It's a sequel to Kirby Air Ride on GameCube, which I think I've never seen before. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen it. Like, I've never played it, but I've seen it.
So good on him. Hilarious. He's bringing out a Kirby racing game GameCube sequel the same year that the first new Mario Kart game in 12 years is coming out. But go off, King. Do you?
And like, for anyone who's not aware, Sakurai designed Kirby. Like, that's his baby.
Yeah, it's that, Kid Icarus, and just Smash in general.
Yeah.
So cool, it's coming out. Cool, we know Sakurai's working on it. Excited to see more. We just saw a cinematic reveal.
Yeah, we haven't seen it.
It's a cool trailer, but like, it doesn't really show anything meaningful. It's just an announcement.
Yeah.
In terms of new games, we also saw Metroid Prime 4 again. So if you weren't aware, in a batshit crazy move, Nintendo had a direct before this one, 6 days prior, which was basically like the final Switch 1 direct. They showed off a sizable chunk of Metroid Prime 4 there, and then we saw it again here. And what we saw here was not much, honestly. It was really slim. It was part of an overall bundle package. But what we saw here was so impressive because it was basically the demo we saw a week ago, but running on the Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade version. So that's launching with a Switch 1 and Switch 2 version. Switch 2 runs with a couple of options for graphics modes. One of them is 4K 60 FPS docked or 1080p 120 FPS docked, which is awesome. It's so good. And what a credit to Retro that they've been able to optimize a game on a brand new hardware feature set to run at 4K 60. The amount of games that can't do that on the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, and they've got Metroid Prime running at 4K 60 on launch, is so impressive. So really, hats off to Retro. That's a real feat. It looks outstanding. And the fact they've got a performant 120 FPS mode in there, or presumably performant 120 FPS mode in there too, is great. It also runs in either 1080p 60 in handheld or 720p 120 handheld if you want that 120 FPS mode while on the go. So it's so good. Just in terms of the options there, it looks great. It also has mouse control support that I mentioned before, so that looks really interesting. It's a little bit funny with Metroid Prime because Metroid Prime's got the lock-on feature, so how much you need that precision with the mouse is kind of up to debate, but I guess you don't have to use the trigger if you want a bit of a challenge. So excited for this game. So excited for this game. You'll only be playing it on Switch 2. Very excited. Still don't have a date though. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I think it's got to be late in the year. Like, it's got to be like October, November.
I hope it doesn't get pushed, man. I'll be very upset. Also for my fantasy critic because I drafted it.
I think that considering how much they've continued to say 2025, I think that it's going to safely, and like they've played it at it's playable. So like I don't think that there's a concern that it's going to get pushed.
I've also heard some people say like that might be in a bid to not bury it under a new Mario Kart and like the first new Donkey Kong in ages. Like, let those games have their moment and then let it have its own moment in like a month or two after that or something.
I think it's actually to avoid Grand Theft Auto 6.
Oh, really? Because it's a more mature game, so it's a more overlapping audience, maybe.
No one wants to launch near GTA 6. And so
True.
I think we're going to have this, like, similar to like an Elden Ring, where everyone's just going to move out of the fucking way.
Yeah.
And just like intentionally delay their game out of the release period for GTA 6 so that they don't just like
tank their sales.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're curious when we're gonna get the surprise drop of the third Horizon Zero Dawn game, it will be the same day as Gran Turismo, GTA 6.
And if not, then it'll be only be ready in time for the next Zelda release.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any thoughts on Metroid Prime 4? Either in general or with Switch 2?
It looks great. Like, it looks really good. Same thoughts of just like, I can't believe they said the words 1080, 120 or 4K 60 or both. That's incredible. It really makes you wonder what was going on with the Bamco version of this originally.
Oh, before they rebooted it.
Yeah, because when they restarted development is when they gave it over. Was when Nintendo moved the project back over to Retro.
And because everyone at the start was like, "Oh, why isn't Retro working on this?"
Yeah. So like, you got to wonder what that was, like what was happening in that project. Like, I can't wait in 15 years when someone puts out an hour and a half video essay on a whole bunch of leaked information about the original version of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. But yeah, it's it looks really cool. It looks really cool. I'm not a big Metroid Prime person. Like, I finished Metroid Prime Remastered. I went, it's all right. I'll play 2 and 3 if they ever end up making their way to the Switch. But I don't have like a love for the series.
For those playing at home, it was announced January 2019. So more than 6 years ago, that development has restarted at Retro Studio. So they've been working on this for 6 years. With Metroid Prime in the middle, I think, as a great effort for modernizing and releasing a great way to get your feet wet with releasing a whole product on a game, especially when you're working on one in the franchise, to see how you can optimize it to get it to all run better. Like, try out some new stuff that you don't know how it's going to work, see what you can do. A great way to road test some stuff. So yeah, I'm very, 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 very excited for Metroid Prime 4.
And like the original version of the game, while it didn't have Retro, it did have Kensuke Tanabe, but again, still not Retro. And so then when it was given to Retro, he was still on it. But yeah, it's I'm glad that it's finally happening. You know?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's wild that it's like, not that it's missed the Nintendo Switch, but it's like Breath of the Wild, right? It's like it's on Switch and Wii U.
Yeah, and who really is going to play the Switch 1 version? It's almost similar in a way to the original Metroid Prime, because that was a series that, like, it was like, oh, they modernized Mario and brought it to 3D, and they modernized Zelda, and like, oh, what else could they? Oh, Metroid, and it never arrived. And then it was like, first year of the GameCube kind of thing. Here's Metroid Prime, and oh my god, look at this generation-defining thing. But they didn't. But it like missed 64.
Yeah. I just realized
it's almost like the history of the series in a way.
There's no Metroid on the 64, is there? Like, at all?
No,
right.
Not at all.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So speaking of Switch 2 versions of things, Prime 4 was shown off in a series of other games that are all getting Switch 2 updates. That's a bit of an odd one because it's not out yet, so it's like launching with the Switch 2 version. But there are games that are already released on Switch 1 that are getting Switch 2 versions. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are probably the big headliners here. If you already own the game on Switch 1, you can buy an upgrade pack, which lets you buy the upgrade for less than the full price of the game. We don't know what that upgrade price is yet. I am worried about it, but we'll see. Yeah. Anyway, it'll probably be too much, but can't do anything about that. So that is happening for Tears and Breath of the Wild. It sports higher resolution. I think Digital Foundry counted 1440p, higher frame rates. Tears of the Kingdom is getting a Zelda Notes app for the Switch Online app, which is adding in new voice memos from Zelda and Roru and Master Koga.
Yeah. Sorry, really quick. Like, it looks like that there are prices for the upgrade packs in
great.
in Japanese yen. Nothing in any other currency at the moment, but it'll be somewhere between $10 and $20.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I hope it's on the lower side, but it probably won't be if this week is anything to judge by.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole new way to experience refreshed way to experience Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I'm excited for those because I'm a sicko.
I am also excited because, like, while I really loved playing Tears of the Kingdom, just every now and again I'm just like, oh, there's almost a really gorgeous version of this, but it can't quite do it.
Also, when you think back to how Switch 1 like performed better than Wii U to start with, like it was already higher resolution than the Wii U game. Even when we were playing Breath of the Wild on launch on Switch 1, everyone was like, man, I wish this ran better. And that was from the get-go in 2017. So it's good to see a game that performs well on a Switch console. Like, it's just good to see. I hope they can keep it up with their new games too, but that will remain to be seen after World and Bananza. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting an upgrade along with the Star-Crossed World sort of additional content along with that. So better graphics and also a bit new content. Super Mario Party Jamboree is getting a whole expanded version and update. So they're adding a whole bunch of stuff that takes advantage of the Switch 2 features, like the inbuilt microphone, which I forgot to mention before, which uses NVIDIA AI voice technology to make it sound good, and the camera, and that's kind of it. And also other things. The mouse mode. So look forward to that. Maybe that's coming out pretty close to Donkey Kong in July. Yeah, like it's fine. It's just I don't know who wants to buy Mario Party Jamboree again and then also have all these kind of like shoehorned in, like, here are the Mario Party games that are just like the ones from the GameCube, which were like a lot of ones that people didn't like. Like, it struck me as like but maybe it'll find its audience. And Pokemon Legends ZA, which we've seen a couple of times now in both these directs, is also getting a Switch 2 version, thank God, because the first one was looking a little rough. Rather, on the first Switch. It's still, Jeremy's got issues with the visual design of the game, which the Switch 2 edition has not fixed because it's the visual design of the game.
Yeah, they would need an actual art direction for them to make, I think, this game look good, as opposed to just like ass on a plate.
That's what the A stands for in Z to A.
Yeah.
The ass.
They were originally going to call it A to Z, but that just spells as.
As. And then let's sort of fly through some of these. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome to It is kind of like Astrobot if it was far less charming and also not free.
Hang on, but before we fly through them, I want to talk about the Duskbloods.
Yes, okay, fair enough.
Because the physical and audible reactions that I was having while we didn't know. Oh yeah, but I was standing like.
Oh, were you?
Oh yeah, I was moving. I could not physically contain what me and everyone else thought was Bloodborne 2 or another Bloodborne. It was
so there were two hilarious moments in this showcase. This was one of them.
This is one of the funniest trailers to have ever existed for a video game.
It's a 3.5-minute trailer. It opens in a moonlit, dark, dank room with this person who's slumped in a chair. And then the first words that are said is, "I give you my blood." And then the lady goes on for another 20 seconds or so. And it's like, wait, what is this? What is this? What is this? Screen goes black. From Software. And everyone's like, what is this? It looks like Bloodborne. What is this?
And it was clock towers. It was Victorian architecture. It was monsters. There's a big moon monster up in the sky with a face. They do the like make contact gesture almost. They almost do that gesture in the fucking game, which is what you do in that game when you know that you have the like ability to see through the cosmos. There was sigils. There was like a vampire biting neck, blood splurting out stuff. I was losing my fucking mind.
See, this is funny because I was thinking how I was quite verbal when this was happening, and how you seemed quite muted by comparison. Turns out you were shocked.
I was
thinking about this after. It's like, oh, Jeremy didn't seem as shocked by this as I did, but it turns out no, you were more shook.
I was both non-verbal and yelling at the same time. It was wild, and then it's not Bloodborne.
Yeah.
But it might as well be.
I just want to read what you said yesterday at 10 p.m. And for record, so this was Thursday, middle of the night, or like Wednesday night before Thursday day that this happened. We're recording this on Saturday for those who are keeping up at home. But last night you said, I don't know if I have the strength to watch the Duskbloods trailer again. They do so much Bloodborne shit in it. And for all the reasons you just said, I thought it was so funny that you're like, I can't do this, man. I just can't do it.
What's also so funny about this is that on a holistic view as well, it is also Bloodborne in the sense that it is a first, let's say, 18-month game on a new console being published by the publisher of the console, exclusive to that console, like
Wild.
Bloodborne.
Just like Bloodborne. And I thought From was going to stay away from platform exclusive lock-in deals. But no, they're keen for it.
And this is Nintendo. This is never coming to another console. This is never coming to PC. Like now at the moment with PlayStation and Xbox, it can come anywhere. It can come to Nintendo, right? Like we might get Bloodborne 1 at some point. If they ever port it, there's a good chance it'll probably also fucking come to Switch, right? Like it'll probably just do that if it ever comes anywhere else.
And PC and Xbox,
Yeah. This is never gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, in 6 years we'll be like, where's Duskbloods 2? Where's the Duskbloods remaster?
Exactly. They'll give us this alongside Bloodborne finally on another console.
The Duskbloods Bloodborne remaster double pack.
Yeah.
Only on Xbox.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, it looks really good. Like, and it's funny because they showed off Elden Ring running on this system, and honestly, not that well. This looked like it was performing much better, which makes sense. It's made for the platform. However, Jeremy, how did you feel when, they showed off the trailer and they said exclusive, and it's a lot of scene setting and just stuff we don't understand? And then afterwards, it was revealed that it's an 8-player PvPvE multiplayer title.
Yeah, look, it's not my favorite genre. I think that like I'm interested
tapping into Evolve.
Yeah. Finally.
Kind of.
I've often said that more games need to be like Evolve. Look,
it's been 11 years. Maybe now's the time.
I think they should make another Evolve, actually. I think they should do Evolve too. I think that was a cool concept for a game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, look, I think that now that FromSoft have started to understand that the internet can be used to connect people over large distances,
with more means than just text.
Yeah. And after our hilarious first time playing online Elden Ring, which led to
us never doing it again.
Yeah, which led to us never doing it, and then also led to us finding out that that the world is segmented extremely arbitrarily with just huge walls that you can't see until you get close to them. Mm-hmm. I think it's good that they're learning how that stuff works, but I think that it's cool that they're learning how to do the internet in a way that that is like clearly trying to make it work for them, as opposed to them just doing whatever anyone else does. Like
totally, they're trying to find a new way that is interesting to them and for everyone else.
Yeah, and like I think that they've always done that a little bit. Like I think that like while the multiplayer versions of the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring is kind of okay, the way they've always done their messaging, their like the little echoes of the other characters, the death splatters, all that stuff, I think that that's always been really great. One, from the whole like shared discovery aspect of a new From game, but also just that like as a way of connecting people, I think it's really novel. And has remained novel, honestly. Like in Dark Souls 1, it was an easy way of doing connectivity. It was Demon Souls, actually. An easy way of doing connectivity that maybe they didn't have a whole lot of structure around matchmaking or even just like peer-to-peer connection. You know, it was really early on the PS3 at that point. But as time goes on, they've kept those messagings because it is such a novel, interesting thing, and also now something that they're known for. So I'm expecting it in this as well. But I think that they're like between this and Night Rain, I think it is fun that they are really playing with the concept of like, you know, shared world, shared like experience, online co-op experience. So I'm keen to see. I'm kind of keen to see where this leads to. Like I'm interested in what's the game that they are able to make. That starts development after they've learned all that there is to learn from Night Rain and Duskbloods. So, yeah. It's fun to see them iterate through their games very, very obviously. And they've always done it because all their games are so, like, they're all siblings of each other. They're definitely all in the same family.
It's iterative in a way.
Yeah, so it's cool to see them do that and being able to genuinely just chart the progression of all of those things.
Yep. It's been interesting talking about this after the presentation. Last night they released an interview blog with Miyazaki, the director of the game and creative director at FromSoft, which was really interesting. And there's some really awesome like thematic cutouts that you can read about, like what the meaning of blood is in the game and stuff like that. That sounds really just cool to read, and it's like, wow, you really are thinking about it so like conceptually. And so I recommend anyone who's interested in the game gives that a read. But there were some interesting things, like there is no set time or place for the Duskbloods. Like it takes place across different times and eras and places, so it's sounding a little multiversal adjacent. Like it's a bit like everyone's stranded and gets pulled across different timelines to when the blood whatever's come through. You've got different characters you could choose from. You could progress and win in different ways, like cooperatively or competitively, or by finding your own objectives. And it was also interesting hearing Miyazaki say that multiplayer isn't really his thing. So they wanted to have ways that people playing on their own could still enjoy the game. So there was a lot of stuff that got me more excited for the general direction of the game. And I mean, while PvPvE, like you were saying, isn't like, I hear that and I'm a little cold about it. Like it isn't as exciting. It's FromSoft and it's Miyazaki and it's them getting to do what they want. And I'm totally here for that. I am ready to be convinced by whatever they bring forward. If it comes out and this is 6, then whatever, I'm not going to love it. But
I think it's interesting as well that like this is maybe the first trailer in a very long time from Software where there's no name, like it's not, written and directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki. Like they don't actually say his name in the trailer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because his name was all over Elden Ring. I know it was because they were doing the the Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin collaboration as like a huge part of it. But like, yeah,
no, good point. Because it was a big part of their post-release, like press releases and stuff like that, but yeah, not in the trailer. It's also interesting in the trailer that these trailers have to be pretty like Cyberpunk and Elden Ring a lot of what they showed was very Nintendo friendly. Like, it was like, oh, look at the world. Don't look at like the drugs and the shooting and the decapitation. Like, but they managed to pull off a very atmospheric Duskbloods trailer that didn't really have that much gore. They saw someone shooting at something off screen. They saw someone biting someone's neck, but it was like a zombie husk thing. But the trailer still did a really great job of representing the vibe.
Yeah,
bleak.
while still showing you the frightening things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's
Like the big wolf monster in the middle of a fire in a forest.
Yes.
Like that, like...
And
yeah,
that
really
just,
sick.
that moon is so awful looking.
Yeah. Yep.
Very Majora's Mask.
Yeah, totally. So is there anything else, Jeremy, that you wanted to touch on in a significant fashion before we sort of cap off what the games were here?
Look, I guess just like Silksong is like, it's just
the
so
second most
funny.
hilarious thing they showed.
So funny. Just in a sizzle reel, 5 seconds.
6 seconds of footage.
Yeah, like you get it. You get this, you pigs. Eat the slop.
Yeah.
And
the fact that they put 2025 on it, but still no date, is just the cherry on top. And like, it's also good because it means that it's technically news. Like,
yes.
it's an updated release window. So they are getting close. Like, they committed to doing it last year for this year, but now we've got a re-updated this year target. It's so...
They didn't commit to this year last year.
I think they did. Didn't they make a post? Like, Team Cherry made like a separate like Twitter post or something. Like, it's not coming this year. We're working on it for...
I don't think so.
Because
also, I think that post got taken down.
Oh. Reddit to the rescue. Team Cherry breaks Hollow Knight Silksong radio silence. Yes, it's real. Progressing and will release. Matthew Griffin. Yeah, that was on X. It was on Twitter. Yeah, okay. Silksong was announced in February 2019. Fuck, it's been in development as long as Metroid Prime.
Well, it was DLC originally.
Yeah, true. It's longer than Metroid Prime. Or maybe as long when you include the reboot development. Anyway.
Is that patch, remember?
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, it's really, it was just so funny to just have like just slightly more than the bare minimum amount of content you can put in for that. Just hilarious. And then we got like shadow announcement of like Deltarune 3, 4, like chapters 3 and 4, which have been years waiting for those, and it's just like, oh, it'll be there like launch day of the Switch 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, launch day of the Switch 2 along with chapters 1 and 2 is like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's quickly roll through some of the other things. They've got their playable manual, the welcome tour, which looks like a pack-in, but you have to pay for it, which is baffling. It doesn't look like it's that fun. It looks like an instruction manual.
Yeah.
Like, sure, talk about the magnets. Like, I'm interested in, like, yeah, I'm interested as someone who likes to repair his own consoles. Sure, how does the vibration motor work? But like, who's gonna buy this?
No, like I no, yeah, exactly. Baffling.
Drag X Drive, which apparently is said as Dragon Drive, is a 3v3 wheelchair basketball game which you play with both Joy-Cons in the mouse position to emulate rolling a wheelchair, and then you pull them up with the motion controls to like shoot the basketball. I think this is a cool game to show off that tech. I think it looks ugly as sin.
Yeah.
I wish it looked like anything. Like, ARMS looked better than this. Like, it looks so boring. It looks like Destruction All-Stars.
Yeah, and like, look, yeah, like mechanically, I think it's a fascinating game, and it's I think it's a really novel way of using those mechanics. I just don't think that it just doesn't look very good.
Yeah, like if it had a bit more visual juice, they might hook a few more people in, and then the diehards who love playing it, because it looks like it could be competitively quite interesting in the same way that Rocket League is, you know.
Yeah,
as long as you've got enough like arm space for the motions.
like I think
But
it doesn't look like Rocket League. It looks like supersonic acrobatic rocket powered battle cars, which was just it's just Rocket League, but just without a really nice coat of paint, and it goes a long way. You know, like you're and like I don't know why they wouldn't want to do a really cool, you know, like lean into like maybe like a Jet Set Radio or like a Splatoon or like lean into some really like specific art direction, but it just looks
something
really
colorful. It's a gray concrete arena where the walls are so far away it fades into a black fog, where you're playing as gray characters with desaturated blue or red wheels. Like, and that's it. Like, I think it's a real miss on the visual design front. I don't know what they're thinking there.
Yeah.
Because I think it could be really good. I think it could be really interesting. And I hope it is. Like, I hope it rises above its visual design.
Yeah, absolutely. I also have no idea who's making it.
Yeah, me either.
As per,
we won't know until it's out.
yeah, we won't know until it's out.
GameCube games are coming to Switch 2 via Nintendo Switch Online.
We're never getting Wind Waker HD.
Third most hilarious announcement. Forgot about this one. The Wind Waker is coming to Switch. The original, emulated.
It's never. That game is never being re-released onto the system.
No, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Metroid Prime 2 and 3 are never coming in a modern fashion until the Switch 4. So yeah, the original is going to be there. It's a high resolution kind of thing, but it's just basically raw emulation. It's Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, and Soul Calibur, along with a number of upcoming titles, including Mario Strikers, Pokemon Colosseum, Fire Emblem, Dawn of Radiance, Path of Radiance, whatever that one's called, the one with Ike.
And it's only Switch 2, I think, isn't it?
Only Switch 2, that's right. That's cool. I thought the visuals of how they're being presented, what they showed us, I think they look great. You know, in the way of like old game on like HD platform does. I pray there is much less input lag. Ocarina of Time was so hard to play on NSO. So I hope they fix it. I hope they do a good job. But yeah, it's there. It's interesting. They're coming out with a wireless GameCube controller like they do with all their NSO releases. That will be impossible to find, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole bunch of third-party stuff. We're getting a new Hyrule Warriors game set in the past, where Zelda goes back in time to, if you've played Tears of the Kingdom, spoilers, sorry. Age of Imprisonment, so between the time when Zelda gets sent back to the past, the time where spoilers happen in that game, there is a whole war, the Imprisoning War. And
there's nothing to spoil.
Yeah, but in my head, I was thinking of particular story beats, and I was like, oh, no.
There are story beats in that game?
Yes, there are. Shut up. you curmudgeon. So, new Hyrule Warriors game. Interesting they're doing this, considering that, like, the first one, I don't know how well it did, but cool, they're doing another one.
Yeah.
I think
Deltarune, we already a game with Zelda in it, I think, just reaches a minimum amount of copies sold that is probably just worth it always.
True. Hades 2 is committed to coming out. We don't know when. High frame rate though. And then it was third party central. We're getting stuff like Street Fighter 6, Civilization 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Bravely Default remaster, Borderlands 4 is launching on the console. Enter the Gungeon 2 got announced. Looked very early. Star Wars Outlaws, Final Fantasy 7 remake Intergrade, Silksong, a new Daemon X Machina. We saw a tease for the 007 game from IO. The entire Hitman trilogy is launching on the console. Split Fiction is coming out with the release date with the game. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out. A whole bunch of interesting third-party stuff. It's good to have on the platform. Most of it looked like it was running okay. The worst looking thing they showed in terms of performance, I think, was Elden Ring.
Yeah, probably. Like, and which is a bummer because it runs pretty well on Steam Deck.
Well, it did run when the DLC came out. It ran poorly enough that you didn't play it.
Yes, yeah, no, that's true. The DLC is, as is with every FromSoft game, even less optimized than the previous base game.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the DLC unfortunately has edged out the Steam Deck in terms of just like baseline performance that I'm willing to play it on. And at the time, I think my Steam Deck was almost on par with my PC, and so I've just been waiting. But now that I've got a beefier graphics card, I really should go back to it.
I cannot wait to talk to you about that game.
And I can transfer my save, which is really good because it's just on Steam.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I think a lot of these announcements, it leans into a thing that I think people have been speculating and there's been reports slowly sort of being spoken about the fact that I think the Switch 2, people haven't had it. Developers have not really had a dev kit that much.
Unless your name was like Capcom, basically.
Which is the thing. Like, there is not many dev kits, especially for indie games. So, while Silksong, and some of these other smaller games in terms of size of studio were in the sizzle reel, like Hades, and there's another one in there that I'm forgetting that is sort of...
Like Deltarune.
Yeah, like... Those games are targeting Switch 1, so I don't think they have a problem with Switch 2.
Right.
The Switch 2 is not really being made super available to indie developers, but it is for the bigger games because this time around Nintendo are really looking at a lot of the larger game companies. I think that they looked at how the Switch 1 went, and they are probably a bit disappointed that they have not got Call of Duty on there. They're a bit disappointed that the sports games had to have their own sort of version on there to an extent. The Battlefield, the Star Wars games that have come out over the years, the Assassin's Creed games, all of those, like the tentpole third-party AAA releases have not made their way onto the Nintendo Switch. And when they have, it's been either neutered or that weird cloud streaming thing that doesn't work in Australia. So this has been a genuine direction shift for them to look at those and go, like, we don't want to miss this boat. We want the Switch 2 to be a place where you can play AAA games, new games. And I think that this means that there will be a little bit of perhaps a little bit of indies being left behind. Because for some reason, anyone that makes hardware is impossible to do both. Like you saw that with the Xbox One, you saw that with the PlayStation 3. That anytime they would go in a direction, they would always go away from another one. PS4 was a big indie console. 360 was a huge indie console. And it's always one or the other. It's super strange. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's kind of a bummer that it seems to be a place where indies are struggling to get development kits. Hopefully that does not continue because the Switch 1 was a big place for indie games. It was a really great way to play indie games if you don't have a PC or, whatever. Like it's just a really good console for it.
Totally. And I think that strategy speaks again to the Steam Deck threat of Switch, where Switch now has to account for this other portable device that can seemingly do it all. It's starting to struggle now. Steam Deck is really starting to struggle to run brand new games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, Monster Hunter Wilds. It's not that that's a particularly well optimized game, but but up until now, it's been a great way to play Cyberpunk, a great way to play Elden Ring, a great way to play Star Wars Outlaws, like
Metaphor,
a lot of the things that we saw in this
as a game that runs incredibly on Steam Deck was like a huge boon for that console.
And like any indie game you could think of is always coming out on Steam, so it basically they'll always run well on Steam Deck unless there's like a Linux problem, which is happening less and less. So yeah, I think Nintendo targeting these types of games for launch, I think is showing that they have a good understanding of what their nearest competitors actually are in this space. As opposed to being like, oh, it's Sony and Xbox, but we're not really in the same space anymore. It's like, no, we've actually got to address this. But you're right. Indies were also the lifeblood of the Switch 1, and I think they know that. So, they did have some stuff in there, like the big indies, the recognizable stuff. I doubt they'll be super cagey about it. If they are, that would be a massive own goal. That would just hamper all excitement for the indie scene and would really damage their platform. And I think you'd hope they understand that and avoid that, but you just never know until we get there with these guys.
And the potential benefit of making dev kits less accessible to indies is if there are fewer dev kits out, and if there are even fewer in smaller teams. Like I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure it doesn't hurt. I think a dev kit is a really a much more approachable way to try and find exploits in a console.
You think they're trying to limit hacks?
I think that that's not part of it. Because
I would have wondered about
hardware exploit.
Limiting leaks, but
pardon?
I would have wondered about limiting leaks, but I wouldn't have thought about software and hardware vulnerability. That's interesting.
Considering the Switch 1 had a hardware exploit in the first iteration, which is why they redid their new Switch flagship model with a better battery. Without that hardware exploit, I think was intentional, because I think that they felt like, Nintendo always feel burned by exploits and custom firmware and piracy. They are one of the biggest aggressors when it comes to emulation and ROMs and custom firmware, all that stuff. The Switch 1 didn't even launch with a web browser, and so if you across the board, so if you had a Wi-Fi system that required you to log into a portal, you couldn't do it originally on the Switch 1. And then they patched it in to make it only accessible via the settings. So yeah, I do wonder if this is part of it to make sure that as the price of games go up, as the price of the console goes up, they are the ones collecting every single dollar and preventing any sort of exploits that allow people to install games
maybe
through unauthorized methods.
At some point it is going to get away from them. They can't control that forever. I was thinking back on that battery update because my Switch has fallen apart this week, and it happened much later than I thought. I remember it being quite early, and it was also quite benign. It was like, oh, new update, new packaging, battery life is improved because of efficiencies. But yeah, quietly, it was a patch for their hardware and software exploits. Well, firmware it probably was exploits that they were shipping with to fix that on a stronger level. And it did work, but although you can still get around the newer models too, it's just more of a pain. But it happened way later than I remembered. It was actually 2019 when they released that, it was a full 2.5 years of the console being out. So I don't know if they're necessarily worried about that for launch. But regardless, they're going to have to start sending these out eventually, and indie teams will just want to get their games on this platform soon. I hope they don't keep it walled for too long. I hope they start sending out dev kits this week. I hope they start. Tariff stuff's going to make that hard, but I do hope they start sending that out to devs soon, because realistically, I don't think it's going to help the industry if they're playing uber defense like that. I think it's going to be really damaging for them and for indies and devs and publishers. I think that's a bad way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. And I do wonder, because the dev kits have not been really reportedly are not really out much. I do wonder if the reason they were able to do a Silksong little announcement, a Hades 2 announcement,
a Silksong jump scare.
Yes. That maybe they actually got the developers to send Nintendo those games, and Nintendo went, "Yep, it works great, cool."
They verified them, maybe.
I have no idea. This is pure speculation, but considering how little we saw of them, I don't know if it was gameplay from the the teams, or it was you know, Nintendo doing their own little sizzle reel.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So that about does it for the presentation. Jeremy and I hilariously said we want the whole show to be about an hour, and this was going to be half of that hour. It has been 90 minutes. So I think we should go to a break. What do you reckon, Jeremy?
Yeah, I reckon so. We'll go to a break.
And then we'll talk about the aftermath.
Not the website. Oh.
Ah! Ah! The break is happening.
Welcome back. This time I hit the right button immediately.
Nice.
Straight away.
Yeah, we were struck by a flurry of transitions at the end there.
Which was so funny because I specifically redesigned my Stream Deck to make sure that I was always going to hit the right button. But I guess since the update to the Stream Deck, it goes dark. It goes to sleep like really quickly. It's hard to wake it up, and I hit a bunch of buttons. Anyway, we're still talking about Switch 2. We've got the final chunk to speak about. The final block, which is how they used to do storage sizes.
Oh yeah, blocks.
Yeah, remember blocks?
Yeah, blocks are great.
I have no idea how big a block is. I have zero context for how big any of those games are.
I think it's. I don't even know if it's smaller than megabytes or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no clue.
Because it's just for 3DS. I imagine they optimized the save sizes for that. So there must just be kilobytes.
But they did it for the Wii as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think that's where it started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think they standardized blocks between the Wii and the 3DS?
Surely, right? Because you could do because if it came along to the Wii U, there was Virtual Console.
Yeah.
So I reckon it would have been. And if it's on the Wii, you can play Wii games on the Wii U. So surely there must have been standardized to an extent.
Yeah, but what about the 3DS? It doesn't really have to talk to the other systems in terms of save files or game data. So.
Yeah,
maybe, Jeremy, what if blocks just made up?
Yeah, what if they're not even consistent across games? What if it's just a lot like you want it like how big do you want the blocks to be? Because there wasn't a maximum. Sorry, there wasn't like a thing on the side of the box that said, you know, your console is, you know, 700 blocks in capacity.
Oh, wasn't there?
Well, I mean, maybe like you could look in the system of the console, but not on the box.
Yeah, but you mean on the box? Oh, maybe. I don't know. I'm tempted to go and find a game case now.
Anyway.
The Switch 2.
The Switch 2. The last chunk of this episode is going to talk about basically everything that happened after the big reveal, the news that has come out since then, the reaction to the price, how the console is being sold, all of that stuff, because
how late we had to stay up to pre-order it.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, let's get into that. So, the presentation ended without a price, deliberately. There was a release date. There was information about the console. There was no price. It was a glaring omission, because at no point does anyone really reveal a console like this with the release date and when to pre-order without telling you how much it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it came out almost immediately after, but it was not in the presentation.
It was such a funny couple of hours after the presentation, because it was a steady drip. It's like every 5 or 10 minutes there was something new, some new bit. Yeah,
like a new website was published and people were finding it because they were clicking on it and links were going live and PDFs were being published, and it was
This is the price in yen. There's a Japan only version. We don't have the US price. We do have the US price. There's a bundle. The digital game's more than the physical game.
It was the most E3 thing I felt in a while, because it was like there was a this is the wrong term to use, but I'm going to commit to it. There was a like refractory period post the post the reveal of people like looking around and finding more and more information. There was a level of a level of like looking around and going like, oh right, okay, like here's how that's actually going to work. Where we were getting information around stuff like the price and when it was going to go live, and especially a lot of pre-order information. There was like there was specific information that was going around about how to pre-order from Nintendo, because they were doing very bizarre priority pre-orders for people who have like played a bunch of Nintendo games in the past 12 months and had an unbroken streak of Nintendo Online membership and a whole bunch of bizarre like,
and it only worked for the family member account that was paying and not anyone under the family member account. This is if you wanted to pre-order through the Nintendo website.
Yeah. And then stores just started to just open up their pre-orders at like kind of on a country by country basis. And so Australia pre-orders went live between 3 and 3:30 a.m. We both
thankfully EB announced it, but it was like, fuck, now we have to stay up 90 minutes.
But they didn't announce it immediately. They announced it like 40 minutes after the direct had ended, and it was about the time people were starting to log off for the night and actually go to fucking sleep. And I was moments away from packing up and going to bed, and then they said like, you got to stay up for another 90 minutes.
On a school night.
Do it on a school night. Anyway, so we both did it. I got mine through JB. You got yours through EB. So the price, 450 American dollars.
Yeah.
Bit of money.
The original Switch was $300 US. So it's a 150% jump up, basically. Or a 50% jump up. I don't know how that works.
50% increase, 150% of the previous price.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's both. 700 Australian dollars. 700 Australian dollars.
Just $50 less than the launch price of the PS5, which just in recent months finally got a permanent price drop under $700. So now a Switch 2 is more expensive than a PS5.
And it was after they increased the price for a period of time.
Yeah, to $800, yeah.
And then brought it back down again.
So it doesn't help the Switch feel like a good deal. Because one of the benefits of Nintendo products for as long as I can remember, at least from the Wii onwards, is that it was cheaper than the other stuff. And as a result, it was a bit less performant. But it didn't matter because they had the games. Just like we were talking about before, it's about the games and about what Nintendo will do with them. But, like, $700, now this thing has to stand toe-to-toe in that arena for as long as it does. And again, talking about the Steam Deck threat in their ecosystem, the Steam Deck shoots under that at a lower performance, at like a lower spec, and up and well above that. So that in terms of that market that they're in terms of the high-powered portable PC handheld,
the OLED does. The LCD is cheaper than a Switch 2.
I think the LCD with more storage is still more expensive, though, isn't it?
They don't sell that anymore. They only sell one LCD at the lower storage price, so lower storage capacity, and then the two above it are OLED. So,
okay. Yeah. I'm used to when it was like LCD, OLED.
Yeah. So now it's LCD, OLED.
Okay, LCD, that's for the best.
The 256 LCD is $650 Australian.
Okay. So look, like, it makes sense in that arena. But the thing is, I've never found the Steam Deck hardware format particularly compelling, in large part because of the price. And so to see the Switch in that same neck of the woods now, it is a bit jarring. It is challenging, and it firmly places Nintendo outside of the cheaper, more affordable, more fun, kid-friendly thing, and now puts it up into the current economic hellscape that we've been living in for the past 5 years. It's not good.
It's not great. Especially because the prices of the Nintendo games are going up as well. The the price of the console has obviously gone up. The price of the controllers is going up. The price of food has gone up. The price of rent has gone up. The price of everything has gone up. It is another thing that is like people overall have less and less disposable income, less and less money to put towards entertainment, put towards things that are not essential.
And at the same time, things then get more expensive too.
Yes. The games going up, I think, is worse. Because they are not affected by tariffs in the same way that the hardware is.
Okay.
Digital goods are entirely different handled. There's no reason they should be going up. There's zero reason these games should be going up.
Especially by this much. Like, considering that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was an $80 game. And even let's go to the upper bounds and say Tears of the Kingdom was 90, Smash was 90.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Mario Kart 8 is a game that existed previously as well, so that one's on its own weird thing. But yeah.
But like they're big, fully stuffed, premium, huge flagship games for the Switch One, $90. That's still cheaper than the $100 base price of most AAA games on PS4 and PS3, which were even $120 during the GFC. And yeah, now on PS5, it's either 100 or 125 or 110. So Switch has always been under that, which has been great. And I think that is an Australian kind of situation, because it sounds like in the States, their Switch games have been at that 60 USD mark, which is a lot of that standard price for PS4 games. So they've been a bit higher in the States than I think they are here. But for our prices now, let's just stick to AUD and say, yeah, we're going up from the 90 deluxe game pack Tears of the Kingdom Smash price on the Switch One up to 120 for those types of, not common, but relatively desirable, very expensive games like Mario Kart World is. It's really disappointing. It's a huge jump, and you're right. It's hard to get a grasp for just exactly where that extra money is going to. Like, we've had consistent prices for so long, and then we kind of broke through that barrier with the launch of the latest consoles, and now to see Nintendo following suit so aggressively from their budget position, it is shocking. It's like jumping into a plunge pool.
Yeah, and I think it also, like, it is also damaging, right? Because, like, in a world where people have less and less disposable income to spend on stuff like this, it just means that they're just going to be buying fewer games. And so it just means that people are playing like less games. There are less people inspired by those games. There are fewer developers then who then will come out of that. The industry then begins to shrink. Like the biggest boom of, like, the biggest reason, like, that the development industry of games that exploded is because of the introduction of lower price points for people to enjoy those games and then go, oh, like, this is so cool, I'd love to know, how this was made, or like know a little bit more about a game, or play something they might not necessarily have played because of it.
So when you say lower price points, can I just ask, do you mean games that have been out for a while that went on sale? Do you mean when the price of games came down around, like, when CDs launched and we stopped using cartridges? Do you mean when indies came out and new releases were less expensive because they were cheaper?
What I mean is that, like, the introduction of indies is a big part of it, but also the specifically AAA games not increasing with everything else for a really long time. Like, I know that, like, in Australia, like, we did slowly trickle up, but in the States, it did stay really consistent for a very, very long time.
Basically since, like, PS1.
Yeah. And so for that to then start to go up, just as everything else has already gone up by, by sometimes over double the price of things, even just before all of these, tariffs have been introduced, which we haven't even got to yet, people could at least pretty consistently buy a new game and it not break the bank. And now, because it's gone up, there's just going to be a lot more consideration, a lot more hesitation. And it hurts. It hurts the industry because there's just fewer games being sold. And then that's also bad because if there's fewer games, that also means that most games that people are playing are going to be the bigger games that are at a free to play model, or they're going to buy one big game and that's it. And so there's just fewer games that are being sold, and so then fewer studios are going to be able to survive that. It's a house of cards, like it's a thing that they really should stop doing. Not every single aspect of every business should be profitable in that way. Not everything needs to be growing. The growth across every aspect of a business is not how that's meant to work. You're meant to have some things that lose money so that you make money overall and also keep the industry going.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's interesting seeing Nintendo as this pillar of the industry that I think we take for granted because it's been here the longest. It's had the most recognizable streak of high quality for the longest. Nintendo has always been here, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it is hard to see them strike this aggressive price point. I have to imagine that they would have preferred to have stayed in that more affordable seeming place where where the public can go, oh, I'll just get a Nintendo console because that's $100, $200 less. That'll be great. That'll be fine for the kids. They don't need a PlayStation. It was such a valuable niche to have for these last 15 or so years where they were affordable and high quality.
But I also think that if they did really want to do that, then they wouldn't have made the price of Donkey Kong so different to the price of Mario Kart.
Yeah,
I think they've been flirting with that more premium price on some of their higher end games or higher profile games. For like the most of the Switch console, it only happened a handful of times, but it was always the ones that, if you were going to pick 5 to do, it would have been the ones that they had done.
The more expensive ones, yeah.
And granted, I'm sure those games cost more to make, but that doesn't matter all the time. Like, I don't care. Like, you need to be a leader in the industry, and imagine if they were the ones that rejected that. Imagine if they were the ones that we're going to keep our games the same fucking price because we want you to play Mario Kart and Donkey Kong and this and that.
Honestly, even if they only upped the price by $10 for each of those tiers, so instead of it being 80 and 90, it was 90 and 100. Like, I would have been comfortable with that. The fact that it's such a huge jump, I don't know, man. And the fact of the matter is, we're games heads, and even more than that, I'm like just a games head. You're a bit more politically active than I am, and economically literate, I think.
Not responsible.
See our Nintendo Switch 3:30 a.m. pre-orders. But the reason I mention that is because I get filled with all these assumptions, right? Of like, oh, well, this is the first console Nintendo has launched, new console. I mean, they've done the OLED, but let's say new console they've launched since the full effects of COVID have filtered through the economy. And I think there's no way to look at the economy right now and say that hasn't been a drastic effect on all of these price increases. Now, that said, we're far enough away from it now because it's been 5 years. Holy shit, time has flown. It's been 5 years since COVID really kicked off. We're far enough away from that now that it's not the only factor, but we're still reacting to that massive global event, and the economy is still responding and jerking around in different ways. Speaking of jerks, then we have Donald Trump initiating all of these boneheaded tariffs that seemingly help.
Good little with the.
Thank you. I saw that on ramp and I took it.
Yeah.
We've got these boneheaded tariffs coming in that seemingly help literally no one in the world, not even him. Like, it's so fucking baffling. And that's just the latest bit of economic shit that has gone on top of the pile that we've been sitting on for the last 5 years. So I look at all of that, and all I can do is make assumptions and say maybe it just is more expensive right now to make games and make hardware, and we know it's expensive to develop AAA games and to continually one up, even if they're not going for a higher like financial target of revenue, which they always are. But even if they're not, a lot of games have to come up with a high technological bar. They have to set the new standard. They have to do better than the last time. And that usually means more staff, more dev time, higher scope. And, we see that in Mario Kart World. It looks immense. Maybe it is that expensive, but that's just an assumption. I can't back that up yet. And, there is an article I've seen on IGN. It's just the headline. I wasn't able to read it this morning, but it's from Rebecca Valentine, who always does great work. It's on IGN. Here's why the Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart World, and everything around them is so expensive. I'll be reading that after we record this. But the fact of the matter is, everyone here is shocked in every country by what's going on. And it's rough. It's a rough time to be a hobbyist in this space, to be an enthusiast in this space like we are, to be trying to run a business in this space, in either a format like we do in games media, or in publishing, or in development. It's a rough time to be around right now. It is hard to be optimistic.
Yeah, and I think Nintendo's a little bit different because of the way that company has historically been operated from the top. Even the stuff around Iwata giving himself a pay cut and stuff like that, when around the time of the Wii U and stuff like that. Nintendo's an odd, unique basket case anyway, so it's sort of its own thing. But we've spoken about this a million times before, but especially in AAA space, there are marketing and executive costs built into every single product that is just a blowout of budget. I'm in marketing in games to an extent at work as well, and it's I know that it is important to get your thing in front of people's eyes, so that they buy it, so then you can make another one. But when you look at some of the budgets for some of these huge AAA games, when all of the budgets for The Last of Us and stuff was coming out, and and it's sitting at hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, or $1 billion or whatever the fuck that the budget for Last of Us Part 2 was in the end. Where the fuck is that money going, right? It's there are black holes everywhere for those with the eyes to see, and often they begin with 3-letter acronyms that often start with the letter C, and end in an E and an O, and so it's a ridiculous thing for everybody else to have to float that, instead of just the greed at the top actually being reined in a little bit. And again, Nintendo's its own thing. We don't know what that's like. We know that the leadership in Nintendo is in a period of kind of transition, obviously Reggie leaving and Doug Bowser coming in it's been a few years since that happened now, but we don't super know some of the bigger impacts of that.
Jeremy, I forgot about Doug Bowser. When was the last time we saw his face?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really done a whole lot. We didn't see.
We used to see him at the Game Awards, though. Was he there last year?
I don't remember.
I don't think he was.
I don't think Nintendo were there though. Were they there?
I don't know.
They didn't really have a game there.
Not. Yeah, I guess not. Last year was a bit quiet for them.
Yeah. Yeah, but Miyamoto's quite old now. He mostly comes out for the movie division stuff.
And then they wheeled him out for that news app 6 days ago. What the fuck was that about?
That was the most old Nintendo ass thing I have seen them do in ages.
It's so strange. So strange.
That news app is really strange. But yeah, they're in a funny spot. We don't even with Sakurai sort of taking a break and then doing his YouTube channel for a little while, and it's odd. It's they're in a funny spot. I think the big three companies are in a funny spot at the moment. But it's
They're all trying to be a bit more anonymous, aren't they? A bit more.
kind of. I mean, like Phil Spencer's still doing stuff, but it's a different. The company had to shift like personality after they spent billions and billions of dollars on half of the games industry. So like it was they then knew that they couldn't be friendly faced anymore. And no one really liked Jim Ryan ever.
No.
And the split between Herman Holst and the other guy, and then Herman Holst then no longer being in charge of like they're also in their own mini identity crisis. But yeah, it's the price is too high. Like
It's just too high.
How are kids and families able to, be able to really feel like that they're like engaging in this medium and then wanting to potentially be interested in this going forward?
I was even thinking like when we were still wondering what the price was going to be, or when we'd only heard the yen price and the US price in that weird sort of gray area after the presentation, I was sitting here thinking Nintendo did a really weird thing in Australia specifically when the 300 USD MSRP of the Switch 1 translated to 470 AUD here. That was a really weird price. And not only was it really weird, but it was permanent. It stayed that way forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It didn't budge. I mean, they had sales every now and then in bundles. And then they had a new one that was more expensive and one that was cheaper. But that one was the same.
The one time it budged is when they when they did the refresh of the Switch and they sold the older one at a lower price to move the stock.
They cleared the old price, yeah, and that was 400 as opposed to 470, if I remember correctly. So, like, my point with that is I'm glad it wasn't 500 at the time. They could have easily said, well, we can't do 450, let's do 500. They picked that weird middle ground that no one's ever picked for, like, since, like, the 90s. And I was sitting there at 1:30 a.m. going, what's it gonna be here? What's it gonna be here? And I was like, even if they make it 660, 670, even just that little bit less in that weird, strange in-between zone would have it would have just been a little better than the sticker shock of having to look at $700 or $770 with World bundled in. Just $30 less on both of those, and I think it would have been just that one step more approachable. It's still not great. It's still like it's only $30 less on a $700 product. I get that.
Yeah, but perception-wise, it's not.
In terms of the sticker shock, at least.
Yeah.
It would have helped.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah.
Weird place to be, man.
$700.
So strange. The fucking Joy-Cons being, what is this? $140 for a pair of them now.
Yeah.
Pro controllers $120. I mean, controller prices have been going up across the board anyway, but it's really disappointing.
The only thing that I think is maybe the most normal price is the fucking price of the camera. It's $70.
Yeah, $80 for a USB-C webcam. Apparently, by the way, if you have a different USB-C webcam, you can use that. Or maybe it needs to be like compatible, but like it doesn't have to be theirs, apparently.
I also wonder if you can plug. I'm assuming then you can just plug that webcam into a computer.
Seemingly, yeah. I mean, who knows what the feature set is or firmware when you plug it in, but maybe it's just generic USB-C webcam. Not that I've really wanted. It looks impossible to mount onto anything.
Yeah, no, it's like a lamp.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we've been talking around it and we mentioned it as well. Let's talk about the news that dropped about 12 hours ago for us. Start of Friday. Nintendo. This is so I'm reading from Michael Kripe, the new writer I haven't heard of on IGN. This
Kripe?
is Kripe. Yeah, Kripes. This is a scary headline. Here it is. Nintendo confirms some Switch 2 game cards will. No, that's the wrong one. That's the Game Key one. Where's my one? Okay, here we go. Wesley Yin pulled at IGN. Nintendo delays Switch 2 pre-order date in the US to assess impact of Trump's tariffs. Sorry, Kripe. We'll talk about you later. This is that next level of weird. So to think that we saw all that pricing and it was before keeping in mind all of this incoming tariff bullshit, is scary, because what that means is, and maybe they did that so they could say this was going to be the price. It is Trump's fault it is now this expensive, when in the States it might be what, $800, $900. What? Oh, well, USD. So probably more like looking like our price at USD now. But what are they saying? It's like a 30% increase, right?
Well, it's not that simple. So
well, sure. The tariff that Trump is suggesting for the countries where it is being manufactured is something like 30%.
Oh no, it's higher than that.
Oh,
because it's on a per country basis. Different countries get different percentages. So, Vietnam has got a 46% tariff.
Fuck.
China has got a 54% tariff.
54%, yes.
And
they've retaliated with a 34% tax on the US.
Yeah. So the article that I've got up, which is a CNBC article.
Oh yeah, please go with that.
From what's that name? Kif Leswing. It says Nintendo said Friday pre-orders for the company's hotly anticipated Switch 2 game console would be delayed following Trump's announcement. They've got the quote here from Nintendo, where Nintendo gave some information to some press and didn't put anywhere on their own. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025. In order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions, Nintendo will update timing at a later date. Launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged, so they are not moving the release date. They haven't said that they are going to change the price. They won't move this release date. I do not think that they will. They will. Okay. They will make a call at some point, but they want to move those units into hands.
They want everyone to be excited about Kart World and
the article goes on to say the delay marks one of the most significant immediate responses from a major company regarding the concerns about Trump's tariffs and their impact on business and consumer spending. Most electronics companies manufacture in Asia, home to some of the steepest hikes. Nintendo Switch 1 consoles were made in China and Vietnam, Reuters reported in 2019. Vietnam was hit with a 46% tariff. China is now 54%. Nintendo hasn't said where its new console will be made. Nintendo also didn't say if it would raise the price of the console, which it announced earlier in the week to be $450 in the US. IPC, a trade group focused on electronics manufacturing, estimated Friday that the game console price could rise by 50% due to the tariffs announced this week. The reason that this is this is the thing that the games industry actually hates the most, but I think in this instance they're actually really glad about it. So there's one thing the games industry, specifically the big companies in the games industry, hate, is that when mainstream news notices them. They hate it when someone puts a magnifying glass on the industry and goes, "What are you doing over there?" It's the
Activision buyout and Bobby Kotick headlines.
It is the Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box situation. It is any time.
Every time GTA comes out.
Anytime anyone looks, the government looks. Anytime the government looks, the games industry goes, no. We've got this industry under control. If we keep our hands on it, on the one hand on the wheel, the government doesn't have to get involved and then take a slice, or stop us from marketing to children, right? So when they love to do it. You see the article recently that they're selling digital space inside of Roblox. Anyway.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so fucked up.
This is why they love to make sure that no one gets too much of a look inside of what goes on, because they want to keep. Because
it's deeply embarrassing.
Yeah, it's extremely embarrassing. But I think that this was intentional. This price went up because they wanted to pre-order and they wanted people to look at it and they wanted to cause a scene, because what's happening at the moment is impacting them and they want it to change. And the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be the biggest piece of consumer entertainment hardware this year. It is going to be the thing that moves in the entertainment electronics space.
Especially considering, like, 8 years ago, phones were still pretty exciting with each new annual release, and they've really plateaued in the last 3, 4, 5 years, where they're very, very iterative, hard to get excited for. AI's been so disappointing. So yeah, you're right. This is probably the most flashy, exciting thing to come in consumer electronics. That's a good point.
There's no E3 or whatever, right? And so it's like they don't do the one piece on mainstream news this year, which is like the nerds have gathered in the convention space in middle of Los Angeles, right? Like now
Speaking of deeply embarrassing.
Yeah, and now it's like the fans of Mario are going to be excited for the new hardware from parent company Nintendo, right? It's that is now the story, which is Nintendo raises price because of Trump's tariffs. Imagine if pre-orders went live and they had to retroactively increase the price.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
I did have that thought.
They don't do that ever. That is like a thing where like pre-order prices are usually locked. I don't know if there's laws around that, but like pre-order prices are usually locked. I do wonder.
I think even if it's not like legislated, regardless, it's a terrible customer experience.
It is awful.
It's dog shit. So it's just bad to be in. So yeah, avoiding it at all costs makes sense.
That's why anytime, I remember when the PS4 pre-orders went up in Australia, they went up the moment the console was shown off. But they didn't have an Australian price, and they didn't have an Australian price for like about a week and a half. And so they had set the price as a placeholder of $1,000.
With like a deposit or something.
Yeah, and it was like $100 deposit. And they said like price not confirmed, temporary price set, and that's because they didn't want to just have $50 deposit with no price, and they didn't want to have $50 deposit with a price that could have been under what it was, and then have to explain to everyone, actually, it's going to cost more than what you thought.
And also they wanted to put... Yeah, totally. And they wanted to put the pre-orders live ASAP, so everyone who was hyped didn't have a week and a half to cool off before they could spend their money.
And so I think that this is a really fascinating use case as well, because... first of all, it's specifically Nintendo, so it's the one that everyone is looking at. It's not the people kids that might not be savvy about games. Like they'll know what a PlayStation and an Xbox is, but they won't necessarily know what the new one is when it's coming out, because it's not directed towards them, whereas Nintendo is directed towards them. I've seen a lot of people talk about this recently, over this morning, for example, like Giant Bomb, GameSpot and stuff, saying like this genuinely could politically activate a large portion of the game space to educate them around why it's important to care about what's happening in the world, because the consideration, especially when it comes to American politics, is that it's if you don't live there, it's over there. How does it really affect me? Maybe not day to day. Does affect you. The world is not. There are no barriers in the world that are unlinked, right? But
that argument really annoys me.
Yeah. But also, especially people in the States, a lot of them. People who say that, what's really the difference between, the left and the right when it comes to political parties, while still less and less each day, it's still important to know that there are repercussions to stuff like this. This is not a thing that has come out of nowhere. This is a thing that was promised, to his base over and over and over again. And there was a complete misunderstanding, intentionally and unintentionally, because while there's a level of deception that was around what these tariffs are, fundamentally,
and omission too, right? Just only saying enough, and
not even that, a complete it's a complete lie. It was a complete fallacy of what he was saying it was going to be. It was just the complete opposite of the truth.
True.
But also, I think there's a level of all of the people that were saying how good are these tariffs going to be. They fundamentally do not understand what they are. It is a tax that the American people have to pay. It is a fundamental thing that gets passed on to the consumer instantly. it is not a punishment for not manufacturing here. It is a punishment for the country not having that industry here. It is
and the thing that baffles me is that it's also instantly damaging their economy, which is instantly going to damage business, which is instantly going to hurt all of these companies that are meant to flock to these magic factories that are meant to pop up out of nowhere and to restart this sort of industrial space in the US so that it's all made in the States, and to like no one's going to have the money to do that.
And if it was made in the States, if they had that industry there, then that's something. But bringing back that industry via taxing the people, by like taxing the concept of buying anything from any of the countries where they're being made is impossible, because the industry is there because the workers there are paid less, and the base level of human care for safety and for pay and for living and operating and working there is less. It is often below minimum standards in many countries, and those standards should also be higher anyway, but that's sort of beside the point.
Yes.
They can't bring them back here because they have set up every part of their business around the manufacturing in countries like China, in countries like Vietnam. It doesn't
Around it being as cheap as possible.
It doesn't work like that.
No. It's just so frustrating to see such immediate adverse effects that will negatively impact so many people across the globe, and it's for nothing. Like it's an exercise in nothing. It is so futile, and it is going to be so damaging to so many people. It's kind of deeply disturbing and upsetting.
The one,
and damn it, I want my Switch 2 to be $670 instead of $700.
The one positive thing that could possibly come out of this. There's two things that could possibly come out as a positive. One is the political activation of the gamers. You know, getting them to start to understand why things are can be so bad under some of the worst people, which is a thing that one would expect people would be interested in knowing, but as it turns out, not. Not to even specifically blame them, because it is obtuse on purpose, so you disengage. But the other potential positive outcome of this is that James Austin Johnson, the comedian that you and I like to share with each other, who does the best Trump impression ever, who often talks about things that he knows about, like Pokemon and Lego, with just an incredible Trump impression that I don't know if you are aware of this. I believe you are, but you know he's Trump on SNL and has been for years now. Like that's his gig after those videos that he used to post. Hilarious comedy writer, maybe the funniest writer on SNL at the moment.
He's got an unlimited amount of fuel right now.
Yes, yeah, and he's got his genuine cross section being now available for him to do on SNL.
Yeah, totally. Nerd stuff and Trump. Yeah, that's perfect.
Also,
if you haven't seen it, it's his impression of Trump talking about Pokemon. It's like a couple of different videos, all timers.
That and him talking to an imaginary Baron Trump about which Lego set he can buy is also an all timer. Also, he's in Better Call Saul.
Yes, he's just in season 4 of Better Call Saul.
He's an important character to that show.
Not as Trump.
Not as Trump.
It's so hilarious how important to that show he is when he's in 2 scenes for a total of 4 minutes. Like,
yeah, so it's important to know that it's only going to affect America. This delay, Australia is unaffected. I believe the UK is going to stay unaffected. It's specifically to America, which is also funny because they so rarely comment on things ever, as specifically as Nintendo. They're the Disney thing where they're like, don't talk about the company. Them citing Trump by name and his tariffs is not an accident.
No, No, and I reckon the Japanese government's probably pretty stoked about it too. Like in a, like in a way that it's like, hey, you idiot.
And
it's not just like a governmental thing. Like this is going to hurt everyone.
and you know, like it's going to happen to every other company going forward. You know, like iPhones, televisions, like computer parts, chips, video cards, everything.
Like let's look at the like to keep this in the gaming landscape. Like as you just did with your examples, let's think about what's the most American games manufacturer publisher that we can think of right now. It's Microsoft.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's Microsoft. A number of their subsidiaries, not all of them, they own a number of international studios. Don't know what happens there, but again, they own a whole bunch of stuff. It's not like Xbox creates they don't make their boxes in America. They're all made overseas. And they're the group who've been struggling the most to sell hardware. What do you think this is going to do? The Xbox is now on a fast track to losing any hardware prospects that they were maybe going to have in the next 3 or 4 years. Their handheld may never come out. Whatever new version of their Xbox box is probably gone, considering that they're already on the path of everything you own is an Xbox with their Game Pass and their game streaming. I think this is if this doesn't get changed and dealt with, or they don't get an exemption, I think we're just not going to have Xbox hardware. I think it's all like new Xbox hardware is going to be a thing of the past if the Trump administration keeps this economic landscape as it is for a significant period of time. It's going to fuck them.
Yeah, it really potentially can. Like I know that like we know that they've been struggling with their handheld anyway, because like between that and the their TV streaming stick, or what, like the Project Keystone, you know, like they took that all the way to the drawing board and restarted it. But like it's going to be a very, very challenging time for a lot of people to a lot of the larger companies to try and innovate in that space, because they will have to consider that stuff. And you know, it's already hard now just because people just have less and less disposable income.
Yeah.
Like they now have to compete with that, and then a tariff that goes to the government that the company doesn't even get to see, but that's going to stop people from buying it, and they then need to. There's no logic.
It's fucked.
There's no logic.
It's so dumb. Yeah, I'm glad Nintendo have said something and been concrete about it. I mean, it's the first thing of any concrete information since they finished their direct.
And like their tariffs, sorry, the Trump's tariffs happened the same day as the direct.
Yeah.
It was just after. That's bonkers.
It is fascinating. It's like it's a perfect storm to see all of these things come together at once, right? Like it's like, how did this happen? Like you couldn't write this.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably about what we've got to say on the tariffs and the pre-order delay.
The other fun like thing that is adjacent to that but is still related is that they also announced a Japanese only Nintendo Switch. Which is which was designed specifically to combat scalpers, because it was sold at a lower price point. I believe it was $330 equivalent USD, or maybe $350 or something.
It's a significant price decrease, and
it is language locked to Japanese, so you cannot play that console in English or the games in English, so that the Japanese market doesn't have to deal with American scalpers creating a unnecessary demand on the Japanese market. I do wonder, from like an accessibility point of view, I wonder if they'll actually just allow you to patch in. Well, allow you. I wonder if they will actually just unlock language support for other regions a year after the console comes out.
Yeah, maybe a bit more than that. Consider the price decrease is so strong.
When they do that, they'll probably just stop selling the Japanese only one.
Yes.
And then just have it.
Just unlock it. Yeah. It is fascinating, isn't it? It is so interesting to see it be such a steep price decrease on launch. I honestly think it's pretty good. I don't really see much bad about it. It does harken back to the eras of consoles being region locked, which I don't think was positive. But there's only this model and then basically the international model with the different charges you need depending on where you buy it. So I'm not really too bothered by it. And I think if Nintendo's a Japanese company, if they want to make a product that speaks to their Japanese customer base more directly, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And at least some people will have a more accessible way to access this console.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, it is interesting that it is two combat scalpers. I can also see it being a preventative measure against tariffs as well. It's like, oh, we've got this thing. It's not even going to be close to affected by this tariff stuff. It's going to be manufactured in Asia, sent here, and then you can buy it for a decent price. But I also think it's funny thinking about that as like a scalping
opportunity.
Like countermeasure. A scalping countermeasure to sort of work against, but also when we're talking about how the pre-orders, as you mentioned before, there are all these requirements. You need to have perhaps a certain number of hours played, and how long you've been online, and like all of that stuff. Like it's funny because as you were reading them out that night, I was like, oh, you need to be a online member. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's like a money barrier. That's a shame, but I can see why. And oh, you need hours played. Oh, that's a lot. And like as they kept adding the things, I'm like, this is weird. This is actually too far. Like you could have kept it at one or two of these measures, and that would have been totally adequate for getting rid of that scalping demand. This is too much.
Yeah, it was like, you don't get a Switch 2. You didn't play enough hours of Xenoblade Chronicles X or whatever. I'm like, What are you doing here?
Exactly. You didn't buy enough game vouchers. I'm just going to open the door for the cat.
You don't have enough Nintendo Gold points or whatever the hell. You didn't.
Which they're discontinuing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I did see that. Or also you don't have enough. You didn't sell your turnips at a equitable enough price.
Make enough stonks. Yeah, so it's I'm glad they've come in with some scalping countermeasures, but like, yeah, I don't think they've nailed it. And it's going to be too expensive to scalp now anyway. I don't think that if they've been over manufacturing to make sure that demand is met, and then the price is this high, I don't think Nintendo Switch 2 is going to run out of stock for years.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see.
They do like a arbitrary.
Artificial scarcity kind of thing.
They do like that.
Yeah, that's true. Not with their hardware though. I don't think they like that with the hardware. I could be wrong though.
Ring Fit.
Yeah, I think that's just because they didn't expect it to be.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And then COVID happened. One of the only other things I had here that I wanted to touch on was the game key cards. We're back to Michael Kripe at IGN. Nintendo has confirmed that those sleek new Switch 2 game cards won't always carry an actual game and will instead sometimes simply contain a key for a game download. So this is an official Nintendo way that other manufacturers can get on board with to have a game that requires an online download, but isn't just a code on a slip inside a case sold at EB Games or whatever. It's a way that means that instead of selling digital codes that then get attached to people's accounts, you're selling a license effectively that is attached to the physical cartridge that still needs to be installed into the system. But the fact remains you still download it from the eShop and you're still running the data off the internal storage of the system. And the game key card is simply the license that allows you to play it. It's kind of similar to how you could download the PS5 version of like Final Fantasy VII Remake if you've got the PS4 version, but you need to use the PS4 disc to start the PS5 version, even though you're not using those PS4 assets anymore. It's the license.
Yeah, you can you can actually download games onto the Xbox Series X if you don't buy them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you can just download the game and it'll sit there and it'll say like you don't have a way of unlocking it. But what you can do is what I do sometimes if I'm waiting for the game to arrive in the morning, I'll tell the console to download the game, and then when I put the disc in when it arrives at 4 p.m. or whatever, I could just play.
Yep.
Because it's the same SKU on the disc on the to the
yeah, that's valuable.
It's a really neat thing. I hope it becomes a standard everywhere.
I've always loved that about Xbox's system, that it is completely region free. Yeah, that's great.
Especially in your line of work.
Mate, don't get me started.
Yeah, but yeah, they have this already.
Yeah, like it's just like a more official way of doing something that was a bit ad hoc.
I think what they're trying to get into the head of the public is that sometimes you'll buy a game and you'll need to wait. For the most part, Switch has been like a run off the cart almost immediately. They want people to be aware that like, oh, when you buy this, you can't put it in and just go. Like you got to download it.
Yeah.
Give it a bit.
Like maybe if they come in with something that's like raw 4K, like way down the line, that's really full of assets and whatever, and it's just too large for their cartridges.
GTA
maybe
6,
they yeah, I was thinking more Nintendo developed, but yeah, GTA 6 on Switch too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like seeding that thought early and having a way that it is just better to not have it be just a code. Like that was always disappointing, no matter what console you're buying it on. So it is interesting. It also sort of circles around to something they announced in their first direct that was a week ago, which was the introduction of virtual game cartridges. Which is, I remember watching that again with you late at night, and when that direct finished, it was like a fever dream. I was like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched. It was so strange. The virtual game cartridges are now a thing that is being implemented for Switch 1 and Switch 2, where when you purchase a game online, you now get a virtual game cartridge. And then you can, if you've got multiple consoles, you can pair the consoles, which then allows you to move the cartridges between the consoles whenever you want. And you can then also lend out your virtual game cartridges to Nintendo Switch Family Online Plan members for a maximum of 14 days. But you have to be in the same room to do the transfer.
Yes.
It's very... It's a bit arbitrary. There is some improved functionality in terms of game sharing for friends and family and stuff. That's cool. But it also comes with a bit of a like, oh, this feels like intense DRM kind of stuff. I still don't really know how I feel about this in the long run. It's so nebulous and strange. Because it doesn't really change. Like if you're just a person on your own who buys games online, and you don't have a Switch family plan, and you don't share games that much, this changes nothing for you at all. But
yeah, but like if you've got a family, I think like kids, this is a boon for them.
Totally, absolutely. Like I think the ability to share digital games is great. It's great to have that feature. But any thoughts on either of these kind of weird things?
I think that the game lending system, I think is overall cool. It's like it's got some DRM, but so does just the digital games on the Switch overall. Like I don't think it's any additional DRM. It's just specifics around, like you can't just lend your game to your friend that lives in another country, because you can't do that with a physical card either. I was chatting to a friend about it, and we were speculating like if there's going to be ways to fake both Switches being on different networks that they're on the same one. Like often you can do that with apps. You can do that with like Amiibos as well. But I do wonder if they might also want to do a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth sync with each other, and in which case it'd be much harder to do.
That's the thing. And I don't think it's going to be like you have to be in the same room to download the game. Like I don't think it's going to be literally transfer it off my system is the only way to do it. I think it needs to be a direct system to system, hardware to hardware handshake for you to then have like borrowed the license to download the game off the eShop. So, yeah, it's funky.
You know, it would have been a really fun way to do it, which like makes sense why they're not. But they would have been a really fun way is if you could, do the. All right, you've got your Switch in front of you, and the reason they didn't do that is because it's changed. But like, you've got your Switch and you got your friend's Switch. If it says, all right, now loading onto right Joy-Con, take it off, put it in the other console.
Oh,
Like if it was a fun like little like carry across, or like an amiibo, like it like like all right, now touch an amiibo to the Joy-Con and then now touches to the other one.
Yeah.
They can't do that because the Joy-Cons are the different shapes and are not cross compatible between either console.
That said,
unless it's wireless, but
both of the right-hand Switch Joy-Cons on the Switch 1 and Switch 2 have NFC capability. That could be an interesting way to just do that. It'd be like a literal handshake, you know, like
in the way that you could load up a Mii fighter, an amiibo fighter from what's it called, from Super Smash Brothers, and then you can send it across. Yeah, it's odd. I think that the game share function, which is
so yeah, not the virtual game cartridge, but the like remote play seeming thing.
Yeah, the remote play thing is even funnier because it's an opt-in system
for the games.
Yeah. And there's a list of games that are getting Nintendo Switch 2 free upgrades.
Yeah.
In the fine print of that website, it's got like, you know, I think about 12 games. Scarlet Violet, Mario Odyssey, 51 board games, whatever. Like the Zelda Link's Awakening, Zelda Echoes. There's specifically not ones that are getting the paid Nintendo Switch 2 edition. The game share feature is listed as one of the potential reasons these are getting things. So there's a world where Pokemon Scarlet and Violet get 0 performance increase.
Yeah.
And all they get is game share.
Yeah, I know.
That's potentially the funniest thing the Pokemon company could do.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I did have that thought of like, these games are getting updates. I'm like, I don't think Game Freak's opening that project folder ever again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're going in there to enable anything. Like, I think they're just making sure it works. They hit the new Switch 2 checkboxes, and then they're out.
Yeah,
Get me the fuck out of here.
It's a config file update to just add a single line item, which is like compatible with this. Yes, no.
Fucking DLL.
Like, because like that game has that game clearly obviously does not have locked frame rate, so it'll just run at a higher frame rate probably. But
yeah.
I imagine if the fucking game runs faster now, like I'm like there's
like game speed time to frame rate. I wouldn't put it past them at all.
Yeah.
Look, if that game runs better on Switch 2, even marginally, like sometimes at 30 FPS, that sounds great.
But I also wonder if they're gonna just like, this is so off topic now, but I do wonder if the stuff around the lower frame rate for the objects in the distance, that's a system that they've built to do that. So I wonder if they will be able to disable that or not.
Maybe, but you're right though. It is a system that it's a restriction that's inbuilt to how the software works because it was built for a certain piece of hardware. Like, yeah, to fix that, they have to get in there. They have to get in there and get their hands dirty. I don't know if they're going to do it.
I also don't know if they're going to do it.
So funny.
So funny. Yeah, so it's I think that more ways to play the games that don't require additional purchases, I think is good. I think that the way the current system works was I think just Nintendo believed it was clearly too lenient with the way you can just log into other accounts and download the games onto your console and play from any account. Their primary account system is archaic in the way that I genuinely don't understand the point of it. I also don't understand the point of it with the PlayStation either, because it seems to be very inconsistent with what you can and cannot play based on the account that's logged in. And Xbox seems to just not give a fuck. So like, it's just kind of a weird, these systems are designed to make you have to buy another version of the game, except that people hate that, so they just kind of say you have to do it without really enforcing it. This is a roundabout way of giving you some new features to also take some away.
Totally. It also feels like maybe they're trying to placate either shareholders or their like higher up CEOs that maybe for whatever reason that they've hated the idea of getting closer to digital is because, oh, it's about community and play and share, you know, all those Nintendo values that they love to espouse and to show off with their games and stuff. And maybe they're like, if we're going digital, we have to find a way to keep people connected and you know what I mean? Like maybe this is just some philosophical thing for them.
And Game Share is also only available for Nintendo Switch Online members. So it's a thing.
Online or online plus expansion pack?
Pardon?
Online or online plus expansion pack?
It just says online. But okay. I guess so is virtual game cards because you need to be in a family anyway. So, can you do that for free? I actually don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if you. I think you can have a family group for. I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't say it's a requirement, but also I don't know.
You have to pay if you want to be a family.
That's true.
So
here's the thing that's just so bonkers to me.
Okay.
It's coming out so fucking soon.
Oh, so soon. And I fucking called it, by the way. I knew it was coming. I didn't know. I expected it to be something like this.
Your gut was telling you soon. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting it this soon. Mm-hmm. Your gut was that Metroid Prime 4 was a release date.
Oh, fuck, that hurts. I hate that. Every time I remember that game doesn't have a date yet, it stings.
You also expected it to be a launch title.
Yeah, I did.
I think I might have as well, but I think by the time that we saw it the other day and didn't see the release date, I was like, it's not coming on launch.
Yeah, the fact we only saw it for like 35 seconds the other day was pretty... it's a bit spooky, honestly. But I was discounting Mario Kart. I didn't think they'd be able to reinvent it in a way that was as exciting as it is. So yeah, they Nintendo'd it. They showed us.
I have one final question for you before we wrap it up. A couple weeks ago now, we spoke about what would it take for the Switch launch to pop. And we were saying they don't have a Zelda. They don't have a system seller. We knew there was a Mario Kart. I don't think we knew if it was a launch title or not. But again, yeah, like neither of us were going, yeah, this is going to be like a day one buy for everyone. We were saying, I was saying that Metroid Prime 4 is not a game that will speak to folks that have never played a Metroid before. I still think that's by and large true. And we were talking about, what could it be? What could it be? Is it time for, I think, would there be a new Animal Crossing? And I was saying, I think it's time for a new Smash announcement even. Still we got Kirby. Have they done it? Have they done the thing that we were speculating would be extremely difficult for them to do? Have they made
have they lined up enough?
Yeah. Have they put together a console launch experience enough for this to be a real success immediately, a runaway success, or even just like a pass?
I think they've managed the pass.
I think they've also managed the pass.
I think they've got the pass because the fact is it was that much money and we still wanted to go in for it. Not everyone does, but that's fine. That's how console launches work. Not everything speaks to everyone.
I think it's only just a pass. It's like a C- because the price is high.
That's the thing. If we're talking without the price, I think it is promising. I think Donkey Kong is not going to do Odyssey numbers.
Absolutely not.
And hit with an Odyssey reception. And with that in mind, that then means we're looking at Mario Kart. Sorry, we're looking at Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4 and Donkey Kong, and those are really the newest things that are coming from them in the next 1 to 6 months of launch. And we kind of don't have anything else, except Kirby Air Riders, which apparently is this year. So like, we'll see. I'm not expecting that to do heaps either. So like they've done well.
And I actually think it's important to mention the Zelda 1 and 2. Sorry, the Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 versions, because that will get people excited. I think people want a reason to go back to those. It's a game that people that I know who like play games but don't play every day, don't play even every week. When they go like, oh, like I really love to jump back in like to a video game, Zelda's one that the middle interest folk do return to. There are people who are like, I don't play games, but I played Breath of the Wild 4 times, right? Like, but not in the way that they play like, you know, a more casual game like an Animal Crossing or something. Like it's a different thing.
It's kind of like it's kind of like Skyrim.
It's like Skyrim.
The latest version of Skyrim, yeah. And there's 2 of them. I agree, and that is the next thing that helps. Kirby, cool. There's something else.
We don't know what it is.
Mario Party, cool. No, sorry, I meant and the Forgotten Land. The Switch 2 update.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So the Kirby update, the Mario Party update, like cool, they're in there, great. It is excellent and savvy that they've got both Zeldas there day one. That is important. And it's a large part of why I've got the pre-order already. The price, though. The price comes into this conversation really quickly because I don't know that I can really afford to shell out for more than Mario Kart at launch. And I'm the one who's in this shit, you know, like it's like the two of us and people like us who do this kind of thing, we're in it. And it's really hard for me to justify right now going in harder than just Mario Kart. Bonanza being that month and a half after launch is good because you can save another $110 before you need to buy it. And
the reason we can go in on Mario Kart so comfortably relative to that whole experience is because they're selling it for $70 package with the console and not its retail price, which is $115 fucking dollars.
It's 120 MSRP. 115 is JB's $5 off.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's 120 at EB.
Oh, for Mario Kart.
So,
like, it looks incredible, but it's Mario Kart. That's so much money.
110 for Donkey Kong. So, yeah, that I'm reminded. I was watching a video from Maximilian Dude this last week, responding to the Switch 2, and he was talking about how when he was growing up and he wanted to buy SNES games and he wanted to buy N64 games, those games were really high in price. Those were $80, $90. SNES cartridges, N64 cartridges. And the thing that brought the price down was PlayStation coming in with a cheaper medium on CDs, trying to undercut the market because they were new. And the market had to respond. And he said, but the thing that would happen is you'd go over to a friend's house and they had an N64, which was great. And they had 2 games. They had Mario 64 because it was a launch title. And they had 1 multiplayer game. It was maybe Smash, or it was maybe Kart, or it was maybe GoldenEye. But no one had any games because it was so expensive until it got way down the line. So it feels a bit like we're looking at a very similar scenario here. And because of that, it is going to hurt the launch. Like with the Switch 1, we had Breath of the Wild selling more copies than we had consoles in the wild. In the Breath of the Wild. Which was a crazy metric. It's a crazy headline. It's a crazy statistic.
And it also does not lend itself to the impulse buy price. Yes. You know, like my Steam Deck was an impulse buy price because it was on sale. And it came down to, I think, somewhere in the $600 or $700 mark. Maybe no, it was more than that because I bought it the OLED really early. I think it was actually closer to $900. Right. But it was down,
which was down from like 11 or 1200, right?
Yeah. It came down to under $1,000. And I was like, and so you can do expensive impulse buy stuff, but there's not enough there for the impulse buy to be the thing when everything on top of that is so expensive. I can impulse buy a Steam Deck because I've got a huge Steam library.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to impulse buy a Switch 2 to play Switch 1 games when Switch 2 games are so expensive. And there's maybe not quite as many Switch 1 games that I care to go back to.
And you have to pay for the update.
Yeah, but like even the back compat ones, I can still play Breath of the Wild on the Switch 2 for free. It's just not the Switch 2 version. So
the other thing is like they've got the back compatibility catalog there. There's a few titles that aren't compatible, but most of them are fine. It's stuff like the Hitman 3 cloud version and all of those impossible ports, which is a shame, like Doom and Wolfenstein and The Witcher. Apparently those are having problems, but there's time to work on them. They're not calling them DOA. But you know, you've got that catalog, which is great. It's a bonus though. It's important. It's great that it's there. It's not going to sell the system on its own. It needs to bolster whatever you're offering that's new and exciting on top. Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, and Metroid Prime, while strong, I don't think it's enough to move units and to get some fervor in the community in the same way it was when there was Breath of the Wild and the best Mario Kart you've never played because you didn't have a Wii U, and the brand new 3D Mario platformer game, which is one of the best games of the year, of the decade. Same with Breath of the Wild. Like that's the thing they had with those. They had some of the most genre-defining, exciting, boundary-breaking moments in the industry, and they were all on this. They were all on the first Switch. That you had to get this to experience it properly. I mean, you could use a Wii U for Breath of the Wild, but no one wanted to do that. You could get it on this instead and then be set for the next 8 years.
And the other thing was like that was also a conscious decision for the development team. You know, like the 3DS and the Wii U, they pivoted hard away from the Wii U quickly.
Yeah, it was a failure.
Yeah, and so their games were then like, all right, don't bother with it. Breath of the Wild is because it was in development for quite a while and was always going to be a Wii U thing, so it stayed on the Wii U. It's designed around the Wii U tablet, all that stuff. 3DS had a long death of like it's Pokemon and
like Luigi's Mansion 2.
Yeah, like it's like they're just waiting and there's just no games coming out, and they keep selling it and they kept selling it and there was still no games coming out. But because all the development shifted to like make a Switch game, but all of the Switch development cycles, like the ones that are coming out on the Switch 1 are almost accidentally ready for the Switch 2 for the launch lineup. You know, like there's a world where the Switch 2 intentionally launched 2 years ago, and their launch game was Tears of the Kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Pack, whatever. We get Mario Kart 9.
Mm-hmm.
Metroid Prime 4 was meant to come out way earlier.
It wouldn't have been ready. It wouldn't have been ready by then.
No. No, but like the.
Oh, you're saying if Retro didn't restart development, kind of thing. Wow, right.
If Retro didn't restart development, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course, whatever it's called, was definitely a decision where they went, we can either make the new Mario Kart now, or we can make a Mario Kart game for launch on the Switch 2, and we need something to do in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom probably was meant to exist in a world where the Switch 2 came out earlier because it was clearly meant to come out years ago, and it was going to be a launch title. The only one that misses is the Odyssey team making the Donkey Kong game, which is maybe why they made that Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury thing in the meantime, because they were like, Switch 2's getting pushed. Your launch game for the Switch 2, launch period game for the Switch 2 is getting pushed along with it.
Yeah.
Iterate in the meantime, do a thing for the Mario 3D World. Like, I think that's why we got so many of those little middle games, so that there was something for the Switch 2. It's
interesting.
Very strange.
It's a good tactic because like they know that they had a really strong back catalog to pull from with Switch One.
And it's the Switch One playbook. It's a new Zelda. It could have been the Switch One playbook, which would have been a Zelda on launch, a new game from that team coming at that point, and it would have been, then if following that alternate universe going forward, a year later you've got the Link's Awakening-esque that Zelda game that came out. Where you played
Echoes of Wisdom on the new thing,
yeah, it would have been that. You get Metroid instead of Splatoon. And then we get a new game from Sakurai coming out 8 months after launch instead of Smash this time. It's a very alternate timeline where if the Switch did come out 2 years ago, so if the Switch 2 did come out 2 years ago, we get the Switch One playbook again, and it works.
Yeah, totally. The only thing that stops the Switch One playbook from working is they don't have a library of great games stranded on a dead system to back them up to bring forward piecemeal.
They've still got some. They've got
their old classics, but yeah, it's not the same
Prime.
as the Wii U.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's not a game that is got modern design principles and can just be brought over. They've got they've got Break in Case of Emergency. We've remade Ocarina of Time again. Break in Case of Emergency. We've got Metroid Prime 2 and 3, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker HD, another Luigi's Mansion probably. They've got stuff to do. If they
so Break in Case of Emergency, that would have helped here. Like one of those. Any one of those would have helped. It's not an emergency, they'll be fine, but it would have helped. It would have just given just a little bit more gas, just a little punch.
And it should have been Wind Waker.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be Ocarina. It should have been Wind Waker.
And it could even just be like the Switch One version and say like the Switch, it would run fine on Switch is the thing. Like, I don't even think you could make it run even better on Wind Waker. You could maybe just say same frame rate, higher resolution. It even runs at 4K on Switch 2. Like, that's all you need to say. And they'll be like, ooh, just a little bit more gas. Yeah. I think in this alternate timeline, we would be looking at very different hardware specifications for what the Switch 2 is today. I think it would be maybe not a 120 hertz panel in the handheld.
No,
I think that would
wouldn't have been that. Wouldn't have been.
It might be capable in the dock, but maybe even then, maybe not. I think that's only in the last couple of years that we've really seen a good push for that as more people get hands on PS5 generation.
It wouldn't have been variable refresh rate. It probably would have been OLED. Honestly, it would have been the sacrifice for the VRR and the 120 would have been.
And we might not have had the Switch One OLED in this alternate timeline as well. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a funny thing to think about, like where we would have been if it weren't for COVID or something to that effect.
Yeah.
As it stands, I think the current lineup is good. I think some of the games stand to be great. In terms of what it means for the console, I think it is only good. And I do worry that there's going to be a lot of people who are only interested in one thing, so they can't buy it for the price, or buy the thing and then we're only interested in one thing and then just sell it because they're like, there's nothing here that I want. I've got a Steam Deck already, or I've played this on PS4, like Cyberpunk, like or Elden Ring even, there's a bit of concern here. They need to back it up, and I'm sure they know that, and I'm sure they're working on it. I just hope they're able to.
I do wonder if the thing that maybe is a big thing for them is that they bring Xbox Game Pass to Switch.
Oh.
Because I know, like Phil Spencer said,
Microsoft want that.
Yeah, they really want that, and now they know now the specs are out there. They know what the system is capable of. I think that now they are ready for that to be a thing in maybe 2 years.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, then Xbox would maybe work on like a streaming client, so you can buy Game Pass Ultimate. I don't know. I mean, Xbox definitely want that. I don't know if PlayStation want to rescind that much of their ownership of the platform. I mean, I say that, but their eShop is Oh, did I say PlayStation? Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I meant Nintendo. I don't know if Nintendo wants to rescind that much of the ownership of their own platform. That said, when you look at the eShop, it's a complete dumpster fire right now, full of so much garbage. So, maybe they don't care. But that would be a huge deal. That would be massive. The only thing I think might stop Xbox from doing that is we know they're actively developing their handheld. But in the same token, I also just spoke about how their hardware aspirations in that space might be severely hampered by all of this economic fuckery that's happening. So maybe their handheld goes on the back shelf and they say, "Hey, Switch, you could be my handheld baby. Like you could do it. Like let us develop an app for you and we can stream on it and then any game we release on the service can be licensed through it too." I don't know. That would be a big shakeup. I don't know how much Nintendo stands to gain from a deal like that. That's a good deal for Xbox. I don't know how much Nintendo really stands to gain from it though.
Yeah, like they'd have to take a cut of the Game Pass, obviously, for like any game that's launched on there. They get a little service fee from Phil, but
like a hosting fee almost.
I have no idea. I don't know. It's a really weird one, but like I think there's something to be said.
Part of that is just Xbox is in a weird one right now. Like that's just Xbox. But.
Sure, totally. But I also think there's something to be said about, like Master Chief Collection is now on Nintendo Switch 2. Like the Gears of War franchise, Minecraft as a part of the thing, Call of Duty, all of the Bethesda RPGs. Like it's a pretty appealing prospect.
It really is. You're not wrong. They do have stuff. It's just, oh man, I'm in such a weird. I'm such a downer about Xbox right now, just because I don't feel like they're really given much to latch faith onto in the last
20 years.
Yeah,
since the 360.
Yeah, since the One launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're officially veering off track. I think we've plumbed the depths of these mines. What do you reckon?
I reckon we have. Thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you for listening to our 1 hour Nintendo Switch 2 podcast.
Yes, our 1 hour in the morning recording of Nintendo Switch 2 podcast.
It's 4 p.m.
That does bring us to the end of this episode. Please, if you enjoyed this, make sure you let people know, get other people listening if you think they would be into it. For those you, no, not that one at all. MiniMap is completely independent. I was about to read that for those of you live on Twitch thing, but that's highlighted red for a reason, Jeremy.
Not today.
MiniMap is completely independent and funded almost entirely from us to help keep the mics and lights on. You can support us by becoming a patron for only $5 a month. You can know that you are indeed supporting the show, and you will also gain access to some of our special bonus features. There's a couple of old videos on there as well. There's some other stuff coming down the pipe. It's taken a hot minute to write 60,000 words, but it's coming. It's on its way.
Sorry, how long when we're recording that? How long are we meant to book for that? We've said a day, right? For a few episodes. You sure it's not a day for the whole episode?
It's a day for 2 episodes.
Okay.
I'll post about it at some point soon. Once I know that I'm ready to go with it. Anyway, if you want to help us out, you can head to patreon.com/minimapau. And of course, the website is minimap.com.au. I am very close to putting up a couple of reviews. One about a video game called Spilled. And the other one about a video game which name currently escapes me, only because I haven't written it down. And as it is just a Japanese word in English, so I don't actually know it off the top of my head.
Get excited for that.
I think they're both fascinating games, so they'll be on the site relatively soon as well. You can find me on social media at Obi1Jez or Jeremy.minimap.com.au on Blue Sky. Kerry, where can they find you on the internet?
Under so many different names and acronyms, it's embarrassing. But the best place to find stuff from me right now is on Blue Sky. That's at kjpalmer.bsky.social. And you can find our stuff on, Minimap, like Jeremy said. I'm also working on an Assassin's Creed Shadows review. So, keep it locked. And thank you so much for listening.
You know how at the bottom right of the stream, I've got the little Minimap thing that flicks between the various platforms, which I haven't updated in a minute. I should have one of those just for your handle as well, depending, and have it sync with the one at the bottom. So when it says like TikTok, it's your TikTok. When it's your Instagram, when it's your Twitter, when it's your Blue Sky.
That's so funny. I've got so many different accounts. It's fucked up. That's so funny.
Anyway, yes, thank you very, very much for listening, and we will see you next time.